I'm not the person I was 10 years ago, and that doesn't worry me. I know I can play good enough golf.
Don't miss the panel every Saturday afternoon, only on Off the Ball.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
All right, it's 7:30 this Wednesday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. I'm Jerry Gilroy. We're here with you all the way until 9:30 every morning. And instead of Owen Sheehan, we've got the King of Mayo himself. Nathan Murphy is here.
How are you? No, Owen's the new King of Mayo.
Well, apparently so, yeah. How did that go down amongst your brethren?
I think they enjoyed it. They have a good sense of humour down in Mayo.
Yeah.
We can poke fun at ourselves. If we couldn't laugh at ourselves in Mayo, Jer, these would be long winter nights.
The rest of the country would be like, what's going on if there wasn't a story coming out of Mayo in the wintertime?
Every winter. It's remarkable, and you'd think at some stage that maybe some people would think, maybe this isn't a good thing.
Enough is enough.
Maybe we could just have a quiet winter.
We're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to talk about the women's football team drew 1-1 yesterday with Greece, a 93rd minute equaliser for Greece. So it's good to see that the women are following in the grand traditions of the men conceding late equalisers that might deny them an opportunity to qualify for a major tournament. They had a Macedonia in Greece. Is that politically insensitive? I'm not sure. We're also going to talk about Raheem Sterling. We've got Robbie Fowler on the show today. You looking forward to talking to Robbie Fowler? I know, obviously, as a neutral football fan and not the supporter of any one specific team at all, Robbie Fowler is definitely not a god in your life when you were growing up.
He's just another guy. He's just another guy that we got on the show.
A jag. Yeah. Is he just a guy?
Well, did I tell you this story of... So I had a couple of heroes growing up, one of whom was Robbie Fowler, and one of whom was Tiger Woods. And I was at Anfield last April when Tiger Woods won the Masters.
Right.
So you'll remember it was brought forward, so it's like 6 o'clock in the evening, 6:30, finished doing the match.
It's the perfect time, actually.
Walked downstairs with Kevin Kilban, and Robbie Fowler stood in the press room with his iPad out, watching the final round of the Masters. So there's still 2 holes to go. So gathered round, watched the final 2 holes of Tiger Woods winning the Masters with Robbie Fowler.
It was like an orgy of your heroes.
It was magnificent. I couldn't fully explain to anyone there why this was so great.
And what was Robbie Fowler like watching the golf?
Well, he's big into his golf.
Is he?
Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, was he doing play-by-play commentary?
Pretty much.
What were his
I can't remember his standout lines.
No standout lines from Robbie Fowler watching the golf?
No.
What kind of a night did he expect Tiger was going to have that night?
I'd say we all expected Tiger to have a good night, Jared, didn't we?
We did, I suppose. Right, we should talk about Mayo and the county board meeting. So somehow it came into our possession. We sent Owen to go and do some journalism, do some digging, and he's on holidays now, so it definitely wasn't him or any of the people that he met. But I just don't know if you saw the story recently. It's kind of boring, but not a little bit funny. BBC and Sky have both issued diktats to their staff. BBC will no longer understand because it sounds a little bit pompous, and Sky will no longer have sources where they're just ripping stuff off another media company. They're going to learn some way of attributing somebody else broke this story first, but it doesn't matter. So Off the Ball understands, and Off the Ball sources have told us. We got the minutes to the county board meeting.
We didn't nick it off anybody else.
No, we definitely did not. No,
we did.
Some people may have nicked it off us, but we didn't nick it off anybody else.
We did get the minutes of the county board meeting. This was the secret county board meeting that we had sent Owen Sheehan to on Thursday night.
They made for very interesting reading.
They did, and how much goes into a county board minutes? Is it every word that is
It turns out quite a lot.
Over the course of the evening?
I'm sure they'll just kind of dress this up a little bit. No, Eugene Rooney's email was a particular highlight for me.
So, an email from Eugene Rooney and an email from Tim O'Leary, who are 2 of those involved in the Mayo Foundation.
You just need to explain names here as we go along, because look, most of us at the start were like, look, this is going to blow over. No need for us to get too intimately acquainted with the various characters. But it turns out this is a long-running saga, a proper soap opera, that it is also going to run for months and months. So buckle up, folks. Get involved. Pick sides. cheer on whoever you want.
No, you're enjoying this too much now.
Cheer on whoever you want.
Excuse me.
Like, it's ultimately...
This is not a joke.
It's a victimless
This is the
crime.
betterment. This is the betterment. I know as a Kildare man, you're worried that if Mayo get it together, think of the dominance we may have.
Look, you just need a good supporters club who can funnel money wherever they want. It's all off the books and no one knows and no one cares about it. Too much of this
Enough about Kildare.
following protocol.
So, Tim O'Leary, people will be aware of at this stage,
Explain.
is an English businessman of Mayo heritage who, having been to an All-Ireland final a couple of years ago, thought, how come these dubs are so good and what can we do about it? Got in touch with the Mayo County Board, said, listen, I would like to become financially involved in backing this Mayo team. I've looked at what Dublin do. It seems as though they have a huge advantage financially. How can I help? From that, there were some personal donations, but also he set up this Mayo Foundation, which is based in America, and they sort of take advantage of the laws in America whereby you can get a good tax rebate because it's a charitable trust.
Right.
So got a huge amount of donors. Obviously, there's a big Mayo diaspora that's
Now,
out
there's
there.
no one from the Mayo County Board on that organisation, is that correct?
No, but the Mayo County Board were very aware of the setting up of the Mayo Foundation.
Sean Warren's got an interesting piece today where apparently if you have an organisation raising money for a county board, there is supposed to be a member of the county board on the board of that organisation. So the Mayo GAA International Supporters Foundation apparently don't fulfil this criteria. But I mean,
Listen, I think that and will be one of many sideshows.
Don't ask,
and
don't tell
Kevin
is the-
McStay was talking about, I think, that sort of situation in this of if you have somebody who's coming willing to help, and it seems as though Tim O'Leary has pulled together an awful lot of smart people and rich people who are willing to help, that as a county board you have a way of making it work. That if you explain to them from the outset, say, listen, we want your help in whatever way possible, but somebody from the county board is going to need to sit on that board. Has that conversation happened? There's been nothing to suggest from Mayo that in all this correspondence that's out there that they've been pushing the foundation saying we need somebody on that, and the foundation have been kicking back. Like, that hasn't happened. So there was this dinner in New York where the Mayo County Board were very much there in force, where Mike Kennelly stood up and spoke about how Tim O'Leary was a great man and a great supporter
Mayo's
of the Mayo
greatest
GAA.
supporter, or a great
Mayo's
supporter?
greatest supporter, yeah.
Is that it? I mean, I thought that was for you or Kev. Kev was obviously very upset that it wasn't.
Well, we'd like to be Mayo's greatest supporter, Ger, but unfortunately, our pockets are not deep enough.
One of the greatest Mayo supporters was the exact line.
So, some people are giving hundreds of thousands of euro. We're trying to get free tickets. You know, it's a different level of support. Let's be quite honest here. It's a different level of support.
Right. So let's go through some of the. So that's Tim O'Leary and Eugene Rooney. Who's he?
So Eugene Rooney is a businessman who I think is based out of New York, who's been a long-term supporter of Mayo GAA, who's also one of the donors, it seems, to the foundation.
Former goalkeeper.
Yes, former Mayo player as well, but very long connection with Mayo. I think would be very well known in Mayo, who hosted the team. It must have been the previous time they were in New York. There was a bill racked up at one of his pubs.
20 grand.
20 grand, which I think in the grand scheme of things in a New
The
York
old Castle
pub
Bar.
in Eugene Rooney's
Manhattan.
life probably
Not
isn't
the one in
a...
Dundee Town, but I recommend that one too.
I don't think the money is necessarily the issue. It's the very fact that
They didn't pay
it
the
wasn't
bill.
paid.
Yeah.
So there's been...
We'll get to his email because we've got some images to go through here. So this is from the leaked minutes sourced by Off the Ball. Just one thing to point out here. Minutes of Cushta Cunday Mayo meeting, 7th of November 2019. The 7th of November would be yesterday week, which would be... Or no, it would be tomorrow, is it?
The 7th of November was last Thursday, not last Wednesday.
And when was it?
I know this because my birthday is the 5th, and straight away I went, wait a second, my birthday was Tuesday, and the 7th must be Thursday.
So
look, it's a simple mistake.
Right.
But a mistake nonetheless in the very first line.
Number 2, minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes of the previous meeting were to be amended with the inclusion of the following. The chairman does get annoyed with the press, and that in the case of Ballintober having won 5 county titles, the best team of the decade, he would have felt their picture should have been on the front page, but instead of the front page was another twist in the Mayo saga. There were no other matters arising. The minutes were proposed by McHugh and seconded by Moynihan. So it's like previous minutes. Just need to amend that to... Chairman was annoyed at the local media for putting the wrong picture on the front page. Right? This is important stuff. Item number 3. Castlebar delegate wants clarification on media ban. Castlebar Mitchell forwarded the following email. Dermot Akara, can you please qualify whether or not a vote took place on confidence in the Mayo GAA executive and board at last night's county board meeting? If no such vote took place, as we understand to be the position, then Can you reconcile this fact with the press statement issued last night that the vote was resoundingly passed by all delegates? I await your prompt reply. Regards. So basically they're saying there, hang on a second, you told everybody there was a vote last night. We were at the meeting.
There was no vote.
Don't actually remember a vote there, lads. What the hell? Number 4 is my favourite. Eugene Rooney email. This is all included straight in. Eugene Rooney forwarded the following email. Laurel and Hardy show. I'm going to the meeting on Thursday night. Fool. Can you tell me, are tape recorders allowed? Started a new comedy group. Dermo, Paulie, Kevy, Miko, you clowns. Pato the manager. Resign, you fools, he shouts. It's a shambles. Regards, Eugene Rooney. I mean, fair play to Eugene for getting the right email address. Fair play to the Mayo County Board for just sticking it in there and reading it out.
Well, I think part of the reason that the email was read out was that there was some other correspondence from one of the clubs saying we need to know what emails are coming through from people around the foundation.
Right.
Because another part of the problem is that there have been any amount of emails back and forth been leaked out. So the county board and people involved in the delegates are obviously reading this online and going, well, why weren't we told about this email at the meeting?
Yeah.
So I think that is the reason that
Everything is
Eugene
now out
Rooney's email was read out at the county board meeting. Again, the county board assumed in private that this would not emerge, but obviously it has. And it shows the depth of feeling, I suspect, that Eugene Rooney has towards the county board right now.
Number 5, Treasurer wants to return the money. The Bonnie-Conlon delegate asked, where do we now stand? Where do we go from here?
That's what's going on.
How did we get here? And where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? The Treasurer said that if it was up to him, he'd give the money back to O'Leary. Not capitalised. The Park KC delegate proposed that the only way forward was mediation, which was seconded by the Ardnaree delegate and was agreed by the meeting after a unanimous vote, which we hope did take place. The Bravey delegate says he does not condone the abuse suffered by officers, but that if clubs had known the full extent earlier, then matters would not have escalated to where they are now. Which is a good point, Mr. Bravey delegate. Fair play to you. The PRO asked for agreement on the statement that would be released to the press. The meeting agreed on the wording of the press release. That concluded the business of the meeting. Remember, the press release was like, a meeting was held. We've no further comment. You can read the full story on offthewall.com, what happened at Mayo GAA's behind closed door meeting. So we put that story up yesterday evening around about between 5 and 8. I don't know what time, 5 o'clock?
Yeah,
half 5?
5,
6?
half 5, yeah.
And then this came to our attention overnight. Minutes of Cushta Kunde meeting is the subject line from Mayo Secretary. Accordia, would the individual who forwarded the minutes of last Thursday's meeting to Off the Ball like to identify himself or herself, or will they continue to hide behind the smokescreen of social media? I am not surprised by the actions of the individual involved, and they call themselves Mayo supporters. Supporters like this are, like the individual who recorded the recent meeting, not welcome. I find it despicable that an individual would act in such a manner. It is fairly, I mean, it's not really that despicable, is it? But it seems as if he's got like a single individual in mind.
Well,
what if there's a group of individuals?
No comment. He goes from one individual to many individuals throughout this. And like the obvious irony of an email being sent out saying, please don't leak this to the media. And that email was sent at 10 o'clock last night, and by 7 o'clock the next morning, it's in the media.
Yeah.
So they're not going to win the media battle. And the reason they're not is because so many people want this to get out there. So many people want this sorted.
They could come out and explain what they're thinking and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to rescue the situation. Because at the minute, you still have an organisation that has a bunch of money that they raised on behalf of Mayo GAA, which should go to Mayo GAA, which I think at some point will probably go to Mayo GAA. But what's the pathway to get the money from there to Mayo GAA in a meaningful manner that everybody's going to be happy with how it's used? And what's the pathway to making sure that the next time money gets raised, that it's raised in a way that everybody understands exactly where it's going before it's raised? Especially the people who are buying the tables and donating the money.
Well, the people who are buying the tables and donating the money, it seems, were buying the tables and donating the money on the understanding that there were very concrete plans in place within Mayo for the improvement of Mayo football. So a lot of talk about Loch Lana and this centre of excellence that they're looking to build, and a feeling and a hope that that was further along the tracks than it actually is. So the vast majority of money raised at that dinner was to go towards that project. They're not happy with what they've been told about the Mayo County Board, about where that project is right now. So they want more reassurances, they want more dialogue, and basically to be told exactly what's happening before they hand over $250,000. I was talking to an awful lot of people about this yesterday back in Mayo, because I'm always a bit wary that Mayo is a big diaspora and a lot of people outside of Mayo talk about Mayo, and there's the people on the ground. And there's definitely a huge culture clash, because there's a little bit of sympathy talking to people for the county board officials, that they are volunteers, that nobody wants to be a county board official, nobody wants to be a club delegate. The amount of people I spoke to at clubs yesterday and asked about their delegates, and they were saying, I has been there for about 10 years, 20 years. I was like, why? Oh, it's the worst job in the world.
Oh, it's grim.
Nobody wants to do it.
But,
but you have influence. Like, nah, you don't really. You just have to go to the meetings. If you ask a question, you might get an answer, or you may not get an answer. So there's no rush. There's no younger generation waiting to come through. So those delegates have been there for years. Those at the head of the county board have all been involved, the majority of them for quite a long time at this stage, but have done so in a voluntary role. And the culture clash is that on the other side now, they've come head to head with what seems to be a very professional organisation. People are used to dealing with professional people and with a lot of money. And how does one transfer to the other? And it is what you're saying of the Mayo County Board should have somebody on the foundation. What have the foundation been told that? Like, if you're suddenly hoping to get, it's what, probably adding up to about 400,000 or 500,000 between the personal donation from Tim O'Leary and the 250 grand. Like, that's only the start of it, it seems. Like, there's many, many more millions to come down the track for Mayo if they were to play this right. It could absolutely transform Mayo for the next generation. Kevin McStay touched on this in his article in the Mayo News this week, how they need a full-time CEO.
Yeah.
And every county needs a full-time CEO.
Or counties could join together and have a backroom staff that manages both counties, because small counties probably don't need one, but some of the bigger counties definitely do. And actually, maybe that's wrong. Maybe the small counties need them more than the big counties, and the central funding could come from the GAA. Certainly, there was a point in the minutes which we didn't bring up there, and which was a very serious point about we need professional mediation in this, and we need the professionals to be dealing with this. So they were actually calling for outside help, and it's been clear over the last week or so that the Connacht Council have summoned the Mayo County Board to a meeting with the GAA, and you're going to see the GAA CEO basically sit the lads down and say, I know where all the money goes, because I used to be the financial controller of the GAA, and I know exactly how much money is coming in and out of counties, and I know how it's supposed to be run. And at the minute, this doesn't look like it's being run in a way that makes sense, or certainly you're not covering yourselves in any glory here. So
now Mayo do have a full-time commercial officer in place now, whose obviously job is to bring in even more revenue. But we are talking about a county that spends well over €1 million every year on the senior football team alone. And to have that in the hands of volunteers and the pressure that that brings on them, how do they have the time to actually deal with this correctly? And McStay's article is interesting. So he talks about that, and he's mentioned it quite a lot. Says no matter what the situation is between a key sponsor and the board, the bottom line is it has to be resolved satisfactorily. We cannot be losing key people that have the ability to help us in various parts of the GAA. We don't have a centre of excellence. The academy is in its infancy and needs huge resources. The stadium debt is crippling. So the idea that there would be a falling out with people who are basically well-intentioned, if a little misguided, is absolutely ridiculous. He obviously has, as he says himself, a lot of personal experience of the people within the Mayo County Board. What they continually do each year, as I see it, is they have no regard for the human fallouts of these episodes. As well as that, there appears to be nobody trying to focus on solutions here. How do we get off the back pages? How do we get Tim O'Leary on board and get things moving again? And I think that's the key point. There's been no... and this has rumbled on for 2 months now. It's really only come to a head over the past probably 10 days. There's been little in any of this, even from these county board meetings, of, actually, we really want this money.
Yeah.
We really want this foundation to come and help Mayo.
Do we need it? Yeah.
No, I'd give the money back to him. Name calling, like just cheap shots here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, look, in fairness, I think there was a bit of that on both sides. You know, Kevin McStay says, however well-intentioned or however misguided, whatever it was. Like, I think that Tim O'Leary needs to come out and talk to people and explain exactly why he has taken this course of action, and just how deep-seated his connection with this is, and how long-standing this is going to be. And like, was this just somebody coming over and going, look, I've got loads of money and I'm going to act like that? Or is it somebody who actually has a deeper relationship in the long term in mind? Because if that's the case, that hasn't come across. Like from the outside, like you would definitely say Mayo need to be careful who they end up dealing with, because they're not entirely in control of this process anymore. You've got to have some control of the process, and everybody has to understand it. And equally, if you're a big donor and you're coming in and you're giving money, then you want some guarantees about where that money's going to go, and that needs to all to be above board. But I would say neither side has actually won the media battle.
No, not right now. Certainly not. And again, there's no like those processes you talk about. maybe they're never straightforward because this is quite a new thing, but you have to make every available opportunity count. And if this comes forward from Mayo, like, have they sat in a room enough times with Tim O'Leary? Have they sat in the room enough times for this amount of money? Like, as I say, this could be transformative over the next 10 years for Mayo. You would have thought that this was almost, should have been top of their agenda at every single meeting. How do we make sure this works? And how do we make sure we're confident this will work? Have we sat in a room, all those questions that you have about the foundation, they should have the answers to all those by now.
Yeah, who are they? What are their aims? And then as soon as that's established and clarified, I think that would actually help solve a lot of the issues.
And then bring that clarification to everybody who's at these county board meetings, rather than in this sort of secrecy of, there's stuff going on over here, but you don't need to know about it. And then everybody's going, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, no, fair enough. Here's what's coming up on the show this morning. We've got sports pages coming your way in just a minute. We're going to talk about the Irish women's national team, who drew 1-1 in Greece yesterday, which means a playoff is the best they can hope for in the European Championship qualifiers. A bit more on Mayo GAA around about 8:20. And then later on, got Robbie Fowler coming your way at 8:45, talking about his new book, talking Irish football and the game against the All Whites, I think is the correct term for the New Zealand football team. And really, we're talking about the game against Denmark on Monday. And then the Freeman tribunal, where Dr. Freeman and Shane Sutton were both in the same room yesterday, and Shane Sutton's hard-on became an issue. We'll talk about that in the papers next.
OTB AM.
Yeah, I'm going to start with that. So here's the Times London edition, and obviously they've got a picture of a scraped face from Joe Gomez. I don't know if you can see that there, but that scrape was not on his face when he finished the game against Manchester City, but it was on his face the first time he was training next. Ergo, by the powers of deduction, I'm suggesting Raheem Sterling is responsible for that scrape.
Wild accusation, but I'm not sure how the scrape got there, because the accounts seem to suggest that Raheem Sterling got him in a headlock, which initially Joe Gomez thought was a bit of a joke, but realised as he wouldn't let him go that this maybe wasn't so funny.
His jewellery, maybe?
Possibly.
I think, or maybe it's a nail. Who knows?
As he's been dragged off.
Either way, it's not. So apparently, Sterling, as soon as he arrived, sought out Gomez, who had arrived early, and was like, "How you doing? How's it going?" And Sterling goes straight over to him and starts giving him a bit of that.
Think you're a big man now, do you?
And he is a big man. He's like 6'1", 6'2", whatever it is. And Gomez thinks it's a joke. They have the row. They get separated. Sterling storms off and drives away. And Jordan Henderson has to ring him and go, here. Listen. Come on. Come back.
Where's the management in all of this?
Well, the management stepped in, banned him for the game, and apparently Sterling is a bit pissed off at that.
I can understand completely why you're a little bit pissed off.
Would you, do you not think that, like, can you just come and start aggro because you're pissed off by the club game at the weekend?
Like,
can you?
In the current English culture, where Gareth Southgate's trying to get away from all those sort of divisions that everybody talks about, previously wrecked the squad, perhaps it seems as though maybe Southgate was a little bit slow out of the blocks in deciding exactly what he was going to do, and in that confusion, Sterling said, "Screw this, I'm out of here." That there was no initial conversation saying, "All right, we're going to sit in 2 hours and discuss this." That Sterling sort of threw the toys out of the pram a little bit. But
so he left after the first bit of, well, maybe you're not going to play at all this time. Well, then I'm not going to play at all. Was it a bit of that?
Possibly.
Okay.
But it'll be. I wonder if there's anyone any phone footage of this. So the food goes flying off the table. It seems that Gomez is going around, as you say, high-fiving everyone. Good to see you again. We're back in. As he approaches Sterling, Sterling stands up and goes, "Oh, you think you're the big man now?" Puts him in a headlock across the table. Everything goes flying. Everybody thinks, this is funny, until 5 seconds in, and no, he's really trying to do some serious damage. Everyone has to step in and try and split it up. So maybe it's not just your average training ground fight. And even though Raheem Sterling is still quite young, he probably is seen as one of the more senior members of the England squad right now. And Joe Gomez is not. Joe Gomez is still a young guy. So, is there a certain look of, well, he's just trying to bully the young guy into going along, and here, listen, next time we're playing, you'll treat me with a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, it's absolutely brilliant. From a Liverpool-Manchester City rivalry point of view.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. I mean,
this is...
I hadn't even got that far yet. I'm just...
This is not Roy Keane, Liverpool and Manchester United, and they're hugging in the tunnel anymore. Actually, Like, where does this go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jordan Henderson may have to play a peacemaker, but Gomez goes back, and do you think any of the Brazilian lads give a shit?
No.
Nah, they're like, next time you nail him.
Yeah. Mo Salah's like... They're tough. I think it's going to be good. I think that would be good. But I think that I don't know. Could he just let Sterling play in this game, and as if nothing had happened, or if Sterling actually, because Sterling's apology yesterday was no apology at all. It was like, oh look, this stuff happened.
Things got heated.
We moved on. It was no big deal. We talked about it. While I had his head in a headlock.
Well, I guess the difference with this and most training ground scraps is that it seems like it was very one-sided. And Gareth Southgate made that point that actually Joe didn't lose his temper. He didn't, he wasn't emotional in any way. Actually, he was just walking into camp and he got attacked.
Yeah.
So maybe that makes it slightly different from your general
There has to be some repercussions.
training ground.
The other headline there, which just bring back up for you there, is can we bring that back up? Doper coach hits back at drunk doctor. So, Shane Sutton stormed out of a medical hearing last night, branding the former doctor of British cycling a spineless drunk and denying accusations that he was a serial liar and a doper. 90 minutes he was up. So the doctor is Dr. Richard Freeman, and he's up before the medical council. This is all in connection with the Jiffy bag. So this is a long story that a lot of you won't have seen too many of the details, but basically these two were two of the most important people at Sky and British Cycling, while Sky and British Cycling were the biggest and most successful cycling teams that we've ever seen. You think back to the British cycling team winning gold after gold after gold in Olympics after Olympics, and Sky absolutely dominating the Tour de France from a point where they were able to take routinely mediocre cyclists and turn them into absolute superstars, all-time great cyclists. You think Chris Froome, not a very good cyclist, and then Sky turned him into an absolute machine capable of dominating the Tour de France, and their whole team was capable of dominating the Tour de France in a way that we hadn't seen a team dominate since US Postal, for example. Freeman was the doctor and Shane Sutton was the head of the team. A bunch of testosterone was discovered in a Jiffy bag, and everybody was wondering how it got there in Team Sky. And the doctor says he prescribed it because of erectile dysfunction for Shane Sutton. Shane Sutton is unhappy about this. He is saying that he never ordered any testosterone and that he didn't need erectile dysfunction testosterone. And his wife would like to come and tell everybody about how amazing he is and that he doesn't need it at all. I'm trying to find the exact quote, but that's basically the bones of it.
I'm not sure if that was the best wording.
That is the bones of it. I was asked to come here and answer whether I ordered Testagel. I did not. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going back to my hole in Spain and enjoy my retirement and sleep at night, knowing full well that I've not ordered any patches. I think it means something different in England than it does here. The person lying is the man behind the screen. So the other part about this is that Freeman is such a snowflake that he was behind a screen. So he was in the court. It's not a court, it's a hearing. He's in the room, which I assume looks very like a courtroom. And he's behind those, those like sheets that are screens. So the media can't see him and the people testifying can't see him. So he's just sitting there listening. Like, you don't even know if he's there, or if he's smiling, or what he's doing. But so.
Sutton also said, my wife wants to come here and testify that you're a liar. You're going around telling everyone in the press that I can't get an erection.
He's saying this to the QC, to Freeman's QC, who seems like she's a tough cookie, but Sutton was giving it back to her yesterday.
Now, he may not return is the problem. He's going back to Spain today, and he's going to decide whether he'll return to the tribunal tomorrow, and if he doesn't, they may well be able to throw out most of his evidence. But it was one of the most insane days I think a lot of the journalists covering British cycling have ever seen. And we all wondered how this would play out, that when the whole Jiffy Bag story emerged, whether actually they would all come together and make sure that actually no story ever emerged. But like, to say cracks have appeared is the understatement of the century.
Yeah.
Like, they're all going to take each other down.
At the moment, that's what it looks like. Well, certainly, everybody now looks at this, which, remember, bear in mind that British cycling and Sky, Team Sky, were supposed to be the best organised, most scientific, most advanced sports teams that have ever existed in the world. And it turns out that these two guys were in charge of the medical and the day-to-day running of the cycling team. So, the guy who's in charge of the medical is accusing the doctor of being a drunk and arriving at work drunk on more than one occasion, and the guy who is the doctor is saying he was ordering testosterone, maybe not regularly, I don't know how regularly or otherwise. They're suggesting that this one time that it happened, they got caught, that they were ordering testosterone, which is obviously an amazing drug to take if you're a cyclist. It's like one of the best things that you can take to make you cycle faster over a long period of time. And these are the two guys who were responsible for running the greatest, most scientifically advanced cycling team of all time. So you can believe in Team Sky if you want. You can continue to believe in the miracles that they produced and the incredible riders that they have produced, all the way up to like winning, non-stop for the last decades. Or you can look at these two guys and go, did they really run the greatest team of all time? Or this is it?
Well, is Testogel so difficult to get your hands on that you need the team doctor
To prescribe it.
to prescribe it?
I don't know. Would you not just go to your normal doctor
And say, actually, and will you make sure you send this to my house that it doesn't arrive?
because it might look a bit bad, and aren't there actual better products maybe than that? Unless it was to like grow his hair back or something. I don't know.
Well, that's not what he's claiming. Why not go with straight up Viagra?
Or the other one. What's it called?
I
Callus.
haven't researched.
I
it.
would.
Right.
Anything you want to tell us? Imagine bringing the wife in, like, and her testifying. I mean, that would be amazing. That would be dynamite.
And it doesn't seem as though that's not a possibility right now.
It's like,
Like, it
come on,
100% seems
on
that
in.
that's something that could happen.
So, how often? How long?
Jeez. The back of the Irish Indo. Mayo treasurer, I'd give back money to supporters group. This is the story that we had yesterday that we've just been talking about. Elsewhere, Brady driven to make Denmark tie after recent squad omission. Robbie Brady was up in front of the media yesterday talking about the very fact he wasn't even in the last squad for the doubleheader around Georgia and Switzerland, and obviously keen to make an impression against Denmark on Monday night. And there's definitely a feeling there might well be a spot in the starting 11 for him on the right side of midfield. And the final one, O'Mahony, mentally stronger players will handle World Cup pain. Peter O'Mahony saying that the World Cup teammates will turn their disappointment into a positive ahead of the start of the Champions Cup this weekend. Johnny Sexton suggested last week that the hurt could stay with players for the rest of their careers. It's a fair comment, O'Mahony said, but you have to be able to use these experiences for more positive experiences down the line. I think the players are mentally stronger to use it better and deal with it better. I think the group is a mentally stronger group.
Is it?
We won't know until when? 4 years down the track?
Maybe, yeah. If they were to win in between time, that would help. The Mirror, Robbie Keane, Burnley star Brady, dreaming big and determined to put himself and Irish on road to Euros. Is Robbie Brady out because they know he's not going to be playing next week, or is he out because there's a chance he might play his way into it?
No, I think Robbie Brady is out because he's a good talker. He's very much, when you're trying to sell tickets, I would say, for a New Zealand game in particular where he's going to play, like Robbie Brady's one of these, he's, Paul McShane style, when he pulls on that green jersey, means absolutely everything to him, and he will talk well, I think, about what it means to him to play for Ireland. And also, I think he's got a very good chance of playing next Monday. There's one spot available in that team on the right side of midfield. It's either himself or Callum Robinson. Callum Robinson, probably say, is just ahead at the moment, but I think if Brady plays well on Thursday night, he has a very good chance of squeezing in there. Unfortunately for Robbie Brady, he just hasn't played much football. And I've mentioned this before. We always go back to Seamus Coleman's horrific leg break and focus on the amount of time he's missed. Robbie Brady's missed more football than Seamus Coleman through his injuries over the last couple of seasons. And unfortunately, he's at Burnley. When you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to force his way back in. I think he started one game this season. He's got some minutes off the bench. But it just feels, when he's not playing at club level, it's going to be so difficult for him to get a start. But Robbie Brady at his best, or anywhere near his best, I think should be in that team.
Totally. Last story in the Mirror there is that Frank Lampard is going to fine his players 20 grand if they're late for a meeting, and 500 quid a minute for every minute they're late. Agents have been banned from the training ground unless they're on official business. It's a crackdown. He's cracking the whip, and it's working for Chelsea, is the Mirror's conclusion there.
The Mail, Brady's back. Midfielder vows to claim starting spot for Euro tie. Robbie Brady admitted it killed him to miss out on Republic of Ireland duty, and felt he had something to offer when overlooked by Mick McCarthy for last month's double header. And also the story there, Sutton says wife would testify to his virility. Shane Sutton sensationally stormed out of the Richard Freeman Medical Tribunal yesterday after branding the former Team Sky and British cycling medic a spineless liar who turned up for work drunk following a messy divorce on a bombshell day in Manchester. The former technical director and head coach Sutton reacted furiously to claims that he was a drugs cheat and that 30 sachets of banned Testogel ordered by Freeman and delivered to the velodrome were for Sutton to treat alleged erectile dysfunction. That one of a number of volatile exchanges over an explosive 2 hours that reverberated through the sport, heaping scandal on its already battered reputation.
Yeah, particularly on Team Sky and British cycling, which, you know, obviously was the centrepiece of the 2012 games in London. What a legacy those games have left, eh? The Telegraph, Eye of a Storm, and it's a picture of Joe Gomez and Raheem Sterling. Sterling obviously wearing the snood and the hat, so we can't see if there are any injuries. But there are no injuries, obviously, for Sterling, because otherwise Gomez would have been blamed for it. That's on the front page there, Eye of a Storm. And then on the back page, it is a column about the fight between KSI and Logan Paul. Did you watch it?
I didn't.
Did you see any of it?
KSI won.
KSI won on points. Apparently, it was a decent fight. Everybody I've heard has been kind of surprised by the...
But by a decent fight, does that mean if me and you went in a ring, it could be a decent fight if it went 12 rounds?
Well, it definitely wouldn't go 12. It might go two 2-minute rounds.
Both collapse in a heap in the corner.
Yeah, even I would have a stroke. I think that there's probably going to be a lot of this now.
I couldn't fully understand what people's issue with it was. Is it that boxing is an incredibly dangerous sport and they shouldn't be putting two amateurs in the spotlight?
They fought before, right? And they fought under the amateur rules. And I don't know why they had head guards, given that so many amateur fights don't have head guards anymore. But they did fight the first time with head guards, and then they went professional for this fight. And I think they sold out the arena and they made loads of money for DAZN. So you're going to see it again and again. You're going to start seeing a lot of celebrities fighting each other. Eddie Hearn was saying, I'm not going to name names, but I've had people from all over the worlds of celebrity, entertainment, sport say, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a fight. I could have a go off that guy.
Raheem Sterling, Joe Gomez.
I'm not sure any governing body in the world would make that fight.
The back of the Star, Southgate, we'll just start from scratch. See what he's done there? I don't think he actually said that. The England coach has offered an olive branch to the Manchester City Star, saying he would remain a key member of the leadership group. Of course, all this is overshadowed the very fact that tomorrow's England's 1,000th international. Sterling is in line to be recalled for Sunday's game in Kosovo. Payne and Dane, Brady out to banish the Aviva Demons. Again, more from Robbie Brady. It's fine margins for Frank. Blues players dock €23,000 if they're late for training and €580 a minute. Who leaked out this?
Don't know. Maybe Chelsea did it themselves. What do you think?
It's good timing. It's international break, quiet time.
Well,
look at this guy. He's a strong disciplinarian. He's a young coach, but he's very much on top of this.
Gareth Southgate doesn't have these fines, does he?
Yeah. If you think this is some sort of just free-flowing football club where the young players can do whatever they want, no. This guy. And O'Leary, no row with Russell. Michael O'Leary's denied falling out with jockey Davy Russell and would not look at anyone else for Tiger Roll's historic third Grand National bid next April. However, O'Leary has also said the chances of him running Jump Racing's most popular horse at the entry showpiece for a third time as being between slim and none.
Yeah.
Also adding, he doesn't give a shite about history.
We'll have more of that story a little bit later on from Tom. It is 8 minutes past 8, just before we get to our first guest this morning. Brady's back. Midfielder vows to claim starting spot for Euro tie, and then the Greek player celebrating yesterday after equalising in the 93rd minute against Ireland. So Greece won, Ireland won, were the women's team yesterday.
The Examiner tripped up. Same situation, Ireland facing rocky road to Euros as Greeks snatched draw. Donal Lenihan says Saracen saga could work in favour of Irish provinces chasing European glory. You'd have to imagine it will if they're talking about focusing on the Guinness Premiership and survival. And one here from Ger Brennan. Sigerson Cup revamp, total ignorance from GAA higher powers. The story inside that former Dublin footballer Ger Brennan's fearful that the scheduling of the Sigerson Cup and the All-Ireland Under-20 Football Championship could lead to young players dropping out of college. In a bid to free up third-level players for the Allianz League, Croke Park have decided to squeeze the 2020 Sigerson Cup into a much smaller time frame than recent editions, throwing in on the weekend of January 11th, 12th. And with the backdoor element removed, the Sigerson Cup will conclude just 2.5 weeks later on January 29th. The Under-20 All-Ireland, which was run off during the months of June, July and August, will now have an earlier start of February this year.
All right. I don't know. They should be making the Sigerson bigger and getting people to go to college and making sure they stay in college. The Guardian Sport here. England fallout upset. Sterling believes Southgate overreacted to clash with Gomez. That's the news from the Guardian there, because it didn't look like that was the case. It looked like he had taken everything he wanted and was happy enough with it, but obviously not.
this the first real controversy of Gareth Southgate's time in charge?
Look, and it's a minor enough one, isn't it?
Maybe not. Like in modern football, you don't get many great controversies. So maybe this is a huge deal. Like Raheem Sterling's probably been his best player for the last 2.5 years.
Absolutely his best player.
And he's suddenly pissed off and going, not only am I pissed off, but you've humiliated me and shamed me and made everybody know that I drove off and then had to be begged to come back.
I didn't tell everybody that you drove off. One of your mates in the squad told everybody you drove off. I said you were out for this game.
Just happens to be a teammate of the other guy.
And if you'd shut your mouth, we would all be fine here, Raheem. Instead, you went on, you had this kind of, no big deal, it's fine, I didn't actually do anything wrong. One last one, are you finished?
No, I'm finished. Same stuff in the back of the thing.
All right, so the Irish News, players won't hang around for Tier 2, warns Poacher, which is basically what Stevie Poacher told us on the show yesterday. And a picture of Ronnie Sullivan on the top there, rocket lifts off. Right, we're talking Ireland and Greece, a 1-1 draw yesterday with Irish Centurion Anya O'Gorman next here on OTB AM. Back after this.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station. This is OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Fabinho's position in that hold in midfield, I'm not totally convinced. A purely defensive midfield player.
I'm just laughing so much. Oh my goodness. Fabinho has been absolutely outstanding for what Liverpool use him for. I think he's been outstanding this season, and I think he's an important player for them.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM.
If you look back at Ireland historically over the last couple of campaigns, we probably have been a team that tends to sit in and try to frustrate teams and maybe hit them a bit on the counter-attack. But I know from speaking to Vera, a few weeks ago that she wants more from this team but to be fair, we've got players who are capable of more than that. We've got serious attacking dimensions in our front players like Denise O'Sullivan. And I know Vera's mentioned it, but she's one of the best number 10s in the world. And that's not an overstatement. And then like Leanne Kiernan with her pace to get in behind, and Amber Barrett was very good today. And Niamh Fahey was excellent in midfield, and Damie Finn and young Emily Whelan as well playing off the left. Like, we have really, really good players, albeit now Katie McCabe played at left full for us today, which not many people wouldn't be used to seeing Katie playing in such a deep position. But, we did have a problem at left back today, and Katie, in fairness, has been playing for Arsenal pretty much all this season in that position. Yeah. She gives them a real attacking dimension. But for Vera, she probably, I probably said it and thought it after the Ukraine game when we were 2-0 up and we came back to 2-2.
Yeah.
And that was probably, in previous terms, that was probably a game we might not have won.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't win the one yesterday. Anya Gorman is with us to talk about what happened yesterday. Anya, I don't know, there's an awful sense of this is how Irish sport works. We concede late goals in key qualifying matches, and we've done it in all sports all down through the years. And yet at the same time, the women yesterday really should have had that game wrapped up just after half time. They had another chance to make it 2-0.
Yeah, I think so, and I think not getting that second goal then kind of killed it a little bit. And I think as the game went on, and it was such a sucker punch in the 92nd minutes to concede, but as the game went on, it was like we dropped off and then just played into Greece's hands, and they just started to dominate the game, and you could just get a real sense of they're going to score here now. And I think it's really disappointing because it's a game that you want to win, you're expected to win, you should win, and look, we're not out of the qualifying campaign yet, but look, it's a bit of an uphill battle now.
Vera Powell made a change at half-time, but she didn't make another change until she brought Stephanie Roach on with 6-7 minutes left. When that momentum had swung and the inevitability started that Greece were going to score, did you think there was anything she could have done differently to sort of get momentum back in Ireland's favour?
Yeah, I think Greece played the game very well, I thought, from start to finish. And in the first half, they were just nailing our players. They were getting really stuck in. There wasn't probably as many yellow cards as they should have been. They targeted the likes of Denise O'Sullivan, Katie McCabe. We took a few, and they just really took that momentum out of the game. And then it was like we never really took possession. We never really took the game by the scruff of the neck. And I think fatigue just was a factor towards the end of the game as well. And we dropped back in. Niamh Fahey was dropping into a back five. They pushed 5 players forward as well. And then I think we just started to lose that midfield battle that Niamh Fahey and Jamie Finn had dominated in the first half, and there was a shot that was blocked by Louise Quinn's head just before the goal went in. So yeah, it's just disappointing, I think, and obviously they're not taking their chance. Denise had a great chance, she made herself. And then shortly after that, Amber played one across the goal, and on another day they go into the back of the net, and it's a game of fine margins.
The clip that we played there, Lisa Fallon said that for the last long time, this Ireland team have really been about defending and hitting on the break, but that Vera Pauw believes that there's more in the team. What's the truth about the playing squad at the minute, in your estimation, Anya? You know them all very well. You've seen the style of play over the last couple of years. Are we a counter-attack team, and is that the best thing for us to do, or should we be trying to do something a bit different?
No, I think I think it was proven against Ukraine that in that convincing performance. I know we conceded goals that were really soft goals. We handed them to them on a plate, really, and we came back and fought well. And look, I think we have the players that can play football. You have your Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, world class. Anna Jarrett was up front, and you seen yesterday then Amber Barrett came in for Anna Jarrett, had a good game as well. Heather Payne, who was missing, had a great game in the wing, and the likes of Emily Whelan coming through as well. And like, we just need to play with a little less fear, but I think that fear started to creep into the game as it went on, and we were only holding on that 1-0, and we didn't get the second goal to kill off the game.
Vera Pauw was talking afterwards about the amount of players that were missing, and you touched on some of them there. I know there were players missing through injury. There was a strange situation where a couple of players weren't being released by the colleges over in America, and how, particularly in those closing stages where you want that little bit of depth and where maybe you want those options off the bench, they weren't there for. Is that how you'd see it, that actually if all those players were available, there probably would have been a different result?
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Like, it was obviously a difficult away fixture as well, and like, I think that the players were there to win that game as well, and I just think as the game dwindled on, that we probably didn't play out the game as well and take a hold of the game like we should have, and just slow things down a little bit more just to close it out. And yeah, like, there were still two changes made. Julianne came off at half time because she got a yellow card, and Kiva Keenan went in right back, and then Stephanie came off because Amber Barrett was injured towards the end as well, and we just didn't manage to close the game out. And whether it was different personnel there or not, it's hard to know. If maybe would have been a different result.
People are obviously very disappointed with the result, because it means that any chances Ireland had of qualifying automatically, well, it's a real long shot now, probably going to have to go towards a playoff. But from a player's point of view, do you think they would have always had in their heads that a playoff was the more likely option when you are in a group with Germany, who are just this team that are demolishing pretty much everybody in front of them? You look at some of the scorelines they've been racking up against other teams in the group. Like, is a playoff still a good result out of this group?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Like, I think when you look at the group, you're always going to, with the result against Germany, really becomes irrelevant, and you're looking at really your second seed, which is Ukraine, which we managed to beat last month. So I think that's what's even harder to take, that we put ourselves in that really good position, and then you go away to Greece, a team that you need to get 3 points off, and you drop 2 points. So when you beat Ukraine, you're thinking, oh, maybe we can get an automatic, one of the best three finishers, and go through straight away without getting a playoff. But look, in hindsight, a playoff is still a great result, and it's still a massive possibility to qualify them. Yeah,
how do they make sure now that the squad don't take this to heart too much and actually don't lose any sense of opportunity that they still have? What will the playing group be saying to each other, and what will Vera Pauw be saying?
I think that they still have to remain positive. They still have to play Greece again, and that's the next game in March, so everyone will be well up for that, for redemption, to redeem themselves. Like I said yesterday, it probably felt like a loss when you lose, and it was like a victory to Greece. So look, and as well, Greece still have to play Ukraine twice too, so who knows whether they'll take points off them as the second seed as well.
What about your situation, Anya? Obviously, you stepped away from the international team, but now there's a new manager in there. People would have seen you play in the cup final, play very well. Certainly seems as though you'd be more than capable of being in that squad. Is it something you've thought about, a return?
Yeah, well, obviously it is always in the back of my mind as well, and it does eat away at me at times as well. So, look, I enjoyed my club football and enjoy my little break now at the moment, so we'll see what happens. I don't know the answer to that question. Everyone's asking me that.
Is Vera Pauw asking you? That's the most important thing.
Sorry?
Is Vera Pauw asking you? That's the most important thing.
I've met Vera, and I've had a chat with her previously as well, and I got on quite well with her as well. But look, I don't know if I'm ready to go back to international football right yet, but we'll see what happens.
All right, well, listen, best of luck. It's a summer break now, or winter break, obviously, for
summer
the season.
break, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's break now till the internationals are back in March, and we'll be back pre-season January then.
All right, well, listen, enjoy the break, and thanks a million for talking to us, Anya.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, Mel. Bye.
Anya O'Gorman giving us some thoughts there and not giving anything away about whether or not she's ready to make a comeback, but it seems like she wants to.
You don't want to commit to going back before Christmas.
After Christmas, everything changes.
You know.
Yeah. In January, you
New
can think
outlook
clearly
in
about
life.
things.
Exactly.
Yeah. You start celebrating Christmas already? Is that the
We are.
Christmas party season?
The run-in has begun officially, hasn't it?
Has it? I mean, the lights got switched on last night
did they?
on Grafton Street, yeah.
Was there an official
Don't think so. I'm not sure.
lighting?
I think that too many people were showing up and it became a public safety issue.
Ah, come on.
Apparently it was like...
Come on.
Well, I mean, did you see that footage during the round yesterday of the 1986 Cup final?
Yeah, at Wembley where there's this
hanging-
huge crush.
Yeah.
Weirdly, it seemed to be tagged as a, look how great football used to be.
Yeah.
Like, really?
That looks horrible.
This is not a safe situation at all.
No, especially around that time.
There's people hanging 20 feet in the air trying to be...
There was people
grab
were
through a
Tarzaning
window.
over to like somehow clamber up. I presume without tickets, or were they people who had tickets and who made it that far?
No, I presume it was just... It looks as though a opening has presented itself for people who don't have tickets, just trying to squeeze their way in.
The 86 Cup final, obviously one of the biggest games in English football history, really, because it was the opportunity for a double to be done, wasn't it?
Liverpool-Everton.
Yeah. So Liverpool did the double that year.
Yes.
Yeah. Beat Everton in the league, just about. Scraped the league. We had Mark Lawrence on Friday, and he was making the point that if they'd lost that league that year, Everton were probably the better team, actually.
Well, Everton won the league the previous year, hadn't they?
Yeah, and the Cup Winners' Cup. So these are the two best teams in Europe, obviously, post-Heysel. But yeah, like a massive, massive game. And yeah, the footage is kind of like, what?
Oh, it's very grim.
Yeah.
Like you're watching it waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if anything did. There's no stories of it. I mean, maybe there was no social media, no reportage. 21 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTB AM. We're sticking with football. Here's Mick McCarthy talking about the All Whites.
Mate, given New Zealand haven't played in, I think, 18 months, what do you make of them and how have you gone about scouting them?
I don't make anything of them, and I haven't, to answer to both your questions. I can't see them. We'll be looking at whatever stuff that our analyst has got. We'll be having a look at them and see how they've played in the past and how we think they'll play now, what players they've got, what players are in the squad, and try and get some handle on how they're going to play, of course. But it's been pretty difficult. There's not that much out there for us. Certainly recent footage.
You must know a bit about Chris Wood, though, the Burnley striker. Leading the line, he'll probably be a pretty key player in New Zealand's attack.
If he is, yeah, if he's leading the line. I had him on loan at Ipswich. He's a terrific striker. He's in a good run of form as well. He's scoring goals. He's a real handful, Chris. Yeah, he's a good player.
Right. Mick's done his homework on New Zealand then. Robbie Brady was speaking to the media yesterday. Here he is on being left out of Mick McCarthy's most recent squad.
Yeah, we had a chat. And obviously it's the manager's job at the end of the day. He needs to get a group of players he feels ready for the game. And with the lack of game time we had, it wasn't enough for the last couple of campaigns. So I've been doing all I can off the field, back at the club, and trying to get myself back to a point where I'm getting the show that I'm fit enough. So I'm back in this time and delighted with that.
Mick did speak yesterday that he's going to give you some minutes on Thursday with a view, hopefully, if you perform well, to being involved in the game on Monday and hopefully playing a key role. So from that sense, you've probably timed your comeback quite well.
Yeah, obviously I would have loved to be here through every single game. It kills me when I'm not involved. So it just gives me that little bit of extra drive now this week to go and perform and hopefully get me name on the team sheet come the big game. But like you said, if the game Thursday, and I'll be looking to impress and hopefully do enough to be in contention of a start.
I'm sure you've watched all the games that you haven't been involved in, whether that be on TV or maybe at the stadium for some of the home games. What have you made of the performances and the campaign overall?
I think it's been good. We started off brilliant. The final end games of the group were always going to be difficult if we were looking at them. But I thought we gave a good account of ourselves throughout the whole campaign. Maybe a couple of games not as good as others, but hopefully we can put it all right and put it together, and we'll all be pushing in the right direction, like I said, to go and give a good account of ourselves now Monday.
So why does tomorrow night matter, Nathan?
It's a struggle. It's a struggle to see why it matters. The opposition are, well, they're no opposition. New Zealand haven't played a game in 18 months. They've pretty much given up, it seems, on international football. Like, no match. They just haven't played a game for 18 months. So I'm not even sure how this came about. Oman weren't available. But what we saw with the one friendly Mick McCarthy's had so far against Bulgaria is that he reads little or nothing into them.
Right.
He uses this as an opportunity, I guess, to reward players who have been around the squad. Now, since hands have been tied in one way, he hasn't had many friendlies, so it's not as if he's been able to blood players throughout the campaign. He's pretty much had to pick his best 11 every time, which means there was probably a good 11 players who've been in every squad and have got little or no game time. So he used that opportunity to reward those players. Now, that was after a game. This is slightly different in that's a build-up to the game. So I'll be interested to see, does he go with the exact same tack again and basically put out 11 players who won't play on Monday? Or does he look at certain players like Shane Duffy, who I know he played at the weekend but isn't playing every week, and you go, maybe you just want to get that sharpness up a little bit? Like, do you play Matt Doherty at right back, saying, you haven't usually played in the right of a back four, here's what we're going to want to do? Mick McCarthy, in his way, will counter that and go, well, you don't want to show the opposition what you're going to do with Matt Doherty at right back.
Come on.
And again, Matt Doherty's played a sizable chunk of football so far this season. Like, I would think you want to play, ideally, he's not going to do this, you play your midfield three. You play Glenn Whelan, Conor Howerhan and Jeff Hendrick. And you say, all right, we all accept that what happened in the last two games wasn't good enough. We're playing pretty average opposition tonight at home. Show me ideally what we would do. Go get on the ball. Go pass it around. Play your perfect match. It won't be as easy against Denmark, but at least get into some sort of a flow of being able to do things. I don't think he'll do that, though. I think he'll play Josh Cullen. Brady probably has the most to gain. I do think there's only one spot in the team up for grabs, and that is that right side of sort of the front three with McLean on the left and Dave McGoldrick down the middle. I wouldn't be at all surprised if a back four was Leo Connor at right back, who's basically only in the squad because he's suspended for the 21s match. He'd probably play Derek Williams at left back and Kieran Clark and Kevin Long in the centre.
Kieran Clark, no chance of...
No, John Egan and Shane Duffy will be the first choice. He's already said he won't go
Definitely
back
not going to play three at the back.
He said he won't.
Practiced it so much in training. It'd be a shame to throw out all those hours wasted.
Well, he threw it out after half an hour.
Did they even do it in training?
No.
Exactly.
No. Like, it was, and it was sort of brushed over. If Martin O'Neill came out with that, we would have absolutely destroyed him.
Yes.
And it's one of many things.
We blew the great opportunity to qualify from this group in that game against Georgia. We blew it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why has he not been?
That will be the result.
Why has that not been the narrative so far? Because we still have a chance of going
I think
through.
It's not been the narrative because people get Mick McCarthy. Like, they don't expect anything else.
Yeah, I expect him not to play three at the back without having practiced it.
Well, the frustrating thing about it is three at the back may well be our best formation.
Well, maybe, but practice it.
But we also played three at the back with Enda Stevens on the left of a back three, rather than one of the best wing backs in the Premier League playing in his best position. You could easily play three at the back. So Matt Doherty's at his best at three at the back. He's going to play. Enda Stevens is at his best at three at the back. He's going to play. And Kieran Clark has been playing three at the back all season with Newcastle.
John Egan
has been playing three at the back at Sheffield United. And Shane Duffy, when he's played, has quite often played three at the back at Brighton. So there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't play three at the back. But much like the Matt Doherty on the right side of midfield experiment, it seems to have been totally written off on the back of it not working for half an hour when, as you say, well, how could it work when nobody knew what they were going to be doing because they hadn't actually spent any time in the training pitch. And the reason they didn't spend any time in the training pitch was because they were worried they were going to be spied upon.
Well, that's ludicrous. That is ludicrous. And if Martin O'Neill had said that, he would have been run out of town. So,
and rightly so.
The double standards here are... It's mad that there are double standards around Mick McCarthy and Martin O'Neill.
I think there's double standards because we know that Mick is going. That a lot of that sort of conversation...
What?
I understand.
The Euros are in Dublin.
I get all that.
So we need to qualify.
But there's no great long-term plan here. There's no great...
So get rid of him now and put Stephen Kenny in now.
Listen, if they don't qualify, I wouldn't have an issue at all with Stephen Kenny coming in time for the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think...
But who can make that decision? Who in the FI is in charge to make that decision?
God knows. They'll have a new interim CEO in the next...
The president?
Next 2 or 3 weeks.
The board? The board haven't even appointed their independent...
It's not going to happen. Mick McCarthy's contract is till the end of the Euro 2020 campaign. And Stephen Kenny probably even wouldn't want to be entertained, because then we were suggesting that actually some of these contracts can be ripped up.
Oh, they can be paid up. There's a difference.
So, to answer your question, I don't think you're going to read anything into tomorrow night's game, except that Ireland should win this 2-3-0 comfortably.
That sounds like we're going to concede. They have a striker who's in goal-scoring form.
He's a very Irish-type striker.
Yeah, it's like, should we not have tried to make Adam Ipswich? Could he not have? He'd already played for New Zealand probably by that stage. Here's Alan Judge and Robbie Brady talking about their first impression of Troy Parrott. Have a look.
Yeah, very good. Trained with him yesterday. Physicality, the size of him for a 17-year-old. He's a big lad. But he's come in with smiles on now. I think Jack Bourne has his arm around him, was looking after him a little bit. So
he's got his
fun week for the two of them.
Who's got his arm around Jack, looking after Jack?
I know. The two of them are looking after each other. The two of them are in good form. No, it's exciting. It's exciting times. It's always good when a young lad comes in. But we'll do all we can to help him feel at home, and he seems to be settling in quite quick and good. So no, it's great to have him in. Great to have him in. No, Jack's a great lad as well, and he's playing some great football. He's had a great year, and he looks sharp in training, the same as Troy yesterday. So it'll be a good week and great to have the two lads in.
My last question is, Alan, your impressions of Troy early on?
Yeah, as Robbie said, physically, he has very good movement. You know, yesterday he's seen that, you know, he's got an eye for a goal already, he's seen it in training. So, yeah, as I said, for a 17-year-old, doing brilliant.
Yeah, look, that's why this game matters, I suppose. Ideally, they would start. Ideally, Jack Byrne would start, Troy Parrott would start. You would tell the world they're starting, and that would add an extra 5,000-10,000 to the gate, no?
Ideally. Mick McCarthy said Jack Byrne will play.
Yeah.
Whether he's going to start...
77th minute again.
Well, you just look at the squad and feel like Josh Cullen is probably ahead of him right now. Played very well. Together? They could, but I would say a potential 3 would be Cullen, Judge and Brown, perhaps. Unless he plays Judge further up the pitch, maybe on the left-hand side, play Brady on the right. Again, that means no place for Callum O'Dowda. So, you would just worry that Jack Byrne will be the one that'll be squeezed out. Remember, he's been the one missing out on the 23 when they've had a 24-man squad. So, as well as he's done, and as good a talking point as he is...
He's not in Mick's plans.
No, because I think Mick is probably looking at Monday night going, who am I going to use?
Yeah.
There's nothing to suggest he's going to use Jack Byrne. Whereas he has used Alan Brown, started the last game. He has used Alan Judge off the bench. And Josh Cullen, though he plays probably a little bit deeper than Jack Byrne, is probably a little bit ahead of him at the moment. But if it is about selling tickets...
Phil Egan wants Josh Cullen to start for Ireland as our holding midfielder.
I don't think so. Ben Whelan is going to start this game.
Sure,
I know.
he is. But should he? They're different questions. He's not saying he will start. He's saying he wants him to start, that he should start, that he's a better player now than Whelan is at this stage of his career.
Against Denmark in a massive qualifier, playing somebody who's never played a competitive game for their country, seems like the sort of thing that no manager in the right mind would ever do.
Fair enough.
Would ever do.
Who's the best player at the minute?
I would say Glenn Whelan is the better player at the minute because of his experience.
Okay.
So on a pure ability level, Josh Cullen would be a better player and can do more. But from an experience point of view, Whelan would be ahead of him. Ideally, you would have somebody else that has a little bit of experience that can step in there, maybe even play Conor Hourihan in that slightly deeper role, play Jeff Hendrick where he plays, and then bring in Brown or Judge or Jack Byrne and play them there.
Okay.
But if it's a straight choice between Cullen and Whelan, I think even still, you go Glenn Whelan.
All right, it's 8:33. You've got Robbie Fowler coming your way in about 12 minutes' time. Here's the two lads, before we let this bit go, talking about the bust-up between Raheem Sterling and Joe Gomez in the England camp. I'm sure they've seen plenty in the Irish camp over the years. It never quite made the papers. Have a look.
Each are different in different situations, circumstances, I think, but I wouldn't say it. Everything's made a big deal nowadays. I'm sure the lads will sort it out themselves and they'll move on quite quick, I'd hope so. But no, I'm not too sure. Nothing really too much to say on it.
I think it probably happens in a few places, but as Robbie said, I think you just move on straight away. I think we've been around it probably once or twice, but you move on and that's the end of it.
We've been around it once or twice, you know. Some WhatsApps might have got leaked.
Not two players going at it.
No.
It's always been slightly different in the Irish camp. It's always been the coach that's been involved.
WhatsApp. Yeah, I mean, any of that kind of stuff happening in the Ireland camp? There's no one really There doesn't seem to be anybody with that type of temperament.
No, but you wouldn't have thought Raheem Sterling was that type of temperament. They've been keen to get that out there over the last 24 hours. So obviously actually, the reason Raheem does this is because he cares more about England
than anybody else.
And he cares more about Manchester City than anybody else. So whereas a lot of those City players, those flaky City players, can maybe stroll off home on Sunday night and go, oh, well, we have 2 league titles in our back pocket. Raheem Sterling's going, no, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
This isn't good enough.
No, look, he's right. Look, he seemed to be one of the few players taking the fight to Liverpool at the weekend.
Oh, he's Manchester City's best player.
Yeah, and
there's been a lot of revisionism about, Trent Alexander-Arnold dealt with him brilliantly. I'm like, he really didn't. Sterling didn't score, and so he didn't have an assist. He didn't set up a clear goal-scoring opportunity. He kind of did. They just didn't end up on target.
Yeah.
In the last 20-25 minutes, he was the best player on the pitch by an absolute mile. So,
if City had got that penalty, the second one, in the second half,
yeah,
things would have been different, I think. They score that goal, it's like certainly.
I don't think it should have been a penalty though.
It's definitely a penalty. The hand's out, the ball hits off it. They're always given. This year they've always been given.
They haven't been given in the Premier League. They've been given in Europe, but they have a slightly different threshold in Europe. Now, here it's no different at all to the penalty kick that Liverpool won in the Champions League final. It's the exact same situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The exact
totally,
same as that.
Yeah. So,
but the Premier League have looked at handballs slightly differently. They don't give them. Whereas in Europe, it's very much been ball touches hand. Like, that whole handball situation is ridiculous. This thing whereby if the forward touches the ball with his hand in any way, no matter how accidental, the goal is disallowed. So I know people are on about Bernardo Silva's handball, but say Sergio Aguero hadn't bizarrely switched off and just started complaining instead of just kicking the ball that was right in front of him and smacked it into the back of the net. If he'd done that, the goal would have been disallowed. It would have been a free kick to Liverpool because Bernardo Silva had touched the ball with his hands.
Yeah.
Even though nobody thinks that was a handball. It's madness.
It is. And we're never going to get to the bottom of it until they all come out and say, this is it, this is the final definitive situation, here's the example, here's the video, that would have been different next time under these rules.
There is no definitive. What they need to do is bring in the pitch side monitor. So therefore, the referee, and everyone sees the referee, goes over and goes, actually, you know what, I thought Alexander-Arnold's arm was just down beside him, but I've realised he sort of put it out like this.
Yeah. So, it is a penalty. 8:37 a.m. this morning. It's the Sports News next with Tom Malone. Yesterday afternoon, he was at Tattersalls National Hunt Sales. Former Irish international Kevin Doyle dropped 155 grand on the most expensive foal that was sold. Have a look.
Good stuff. Well, we're here at Tattersalls, Ireland, in the fading light. But the one horse that's dominated all the build-up to this sale was the Altior half-brother, and joined now by former Ireland international Kevin Doyle. You were the man who brought down the bid on him. What was struck you about the colt?
He's Altior's half-brother, and he's by Camelot, so listen, there was nothing not to like about him. He was for a June foal as well. He was quite big, so delighted to get him. He's a lovely looking foal, and hopefully when he comes back here in a couple of years he'll be the same.
I suppose another thing, the place was electric, wasn't it? It was quite a bit more out there.
Yeah, it doesn't come on the market, things like this, too often, you know. There's a few people interested in him, and I'm just delighted to get him.
And as what next for this guy?
He'll be home in Wexford, on the farm at home, and looking after him and feeding him well, and hoping he grows into a nice 3-year-old, and we'll be back on sale in a couple of years' time.
And yourself, obviously a lot of people recognise you as a former footballer, but you've invested heavily in your breeding operation.
Yeah, listen, it's I suppose it's more like a full-time hobby. It's evolved. I really enjoy it. You know, when you finish playing a sport or playing football, it's fantastic to have something straight away that interests me and occupies me and keeps me excited every day to get up and deal with the different mares and things we have at home and the different jobs that need to be done.
All right, so the sale does continue. Tom, that was pretty interesting days.
Yeah, I was just up there.
Selling?
Yeah, I was up there in the afternoon. So that was quite a well-touted lot. Obviously, very impressive pedigree by Camelot. He's a classic winner, top stallion, and most notably a half-brother to Altior, who's the highest. You know, he's the best jumper in training. But I mean, the buzz in there was incredible.
This horse that was bought yesterday.
Yeah,
155 grand for a foal.
Yeah, I mean that's like top lot. Like nothing else really made kind of 6 figures. It is just different level. And you go in and the auction starts, and the auctioneer throws out a fantasy number, and I'm like, oh, someone give me 50 for this, and it kind of goes 50, 40, 30, 20, 5. I hear 5. Well, he started off like, I want 200 for this guy, and I was like, yeah, whatever. 150, 100, bid, and it's like, what? The bidding started on 100,000. What? Like, and then it just went from there. And like the biggest players in Bloodstock all involved, and Kevin Doyle was the man who brought it down at 155.
Where does this horse end up? What's the career path for a horse like this?
Well, Kevin Doyle is now a breeder. He bought a pretty famous mare called Augusta Kate, who's a Group 1 winner herself. So he's breeding from her, and he's running a relatively small breeding operation, but obviously significant investment. So he'll take that foal home. Take care of it. Nothing will happen with him for 2 years. He'll just grow, and then he'll probably go back for the likes of the Derby sale at Tattersall's again, where he'll be sold as an unbroken store, which is essentially just an unraced 3-year-old gelding. So it's not like
when does the horse get gelded?
Well, he'll be gelded in 1 or 2, like, but as in. This horse is now.
And is there no way
future value? This horse is not going to be a stallion. This horse is not going to be like. He's just a
testigel.
Yeah.
But is there any way that he doesn't become a gelding, given that you paid this much for him? Can you not go?
It's highly unlikely. Look, he'll go back to the Derby sale in 2 years' time as an unbroken 3-year-old, and he will be highly marketed as an incredibly impressive. Potential horse. He could easily sell for 250, 300,000 as a store.
Why?
And then
what's going to change over the next 2 years if, as you say, Kevin Doyle just brings him home?
Well, it's an element of risk. It's just an element of risk. He's also very desirable. Those horses don't come on the market too often. Like, obviously, he's a half-brother to Altior, so only one of those is born every year out of that mare, possibly. Some of them haven't been very good. Altior is obviously absolutely top class. And, then in 2 years' time, an opportunity will come for someone to buy that foal, and I would imagine the bidding will start again at 200,000-300,000, and it'd probably be knocked down for maybe 250,000, and then it'll go to Nicky Henderson to train or something like that,
Do they geld them for any reason other than it'd be sore banging off the fences?
It's a temperament thing as well. It's just for concentration,
would you not take the risk that maybe the temperament will be grand and then you will be able to get a...
It's just kind of not really done over here. The only horse, like last year, the most obvious one was Sir Eric, who unfortunately, broke down the Triumph Hurdle. He ran as an end tire at Cheltenham. It's something to do in France more often, the likes of Bucks Boom, who's a stallion, or Alderbrook a few years ago, where they actually ran over hurdles as end tires and then retired to paddock.
And retired to stud, or do you...
They can be retired to stud as stallions. It's
and do they stand as stallions, or does no one kind of care that they don't think they're going to be any good?
Well, if you retire as a stallion, then you're a commercial prospect, and people will send you their mares. It happens in France more often. It doesn't happen very often over here.
I'm just confused about the next couple of years then. Like, could I have bought this horse for 150 grand, bring it home, and if the horse doesn't get injured, it'll be worth 250 grand in 2 years?
Possibly,
or is there something, is there something Kevin Doyle will do?
A certain element of animal husbandry is required. I mean, before we can...
before we... the garden of Farnham, Nathan.
Yeah, you can't just be out in your garden, like...
Not until it's gelded.
Just before he challenged him there, like, he was like, I have to take this call. This is the insurance guy. So, you know what I mean? You bring down the hammer, you ring your insurance company to say, here, listen, I've just paid 150 grand for this.
Fair enough. What have we got, Tom?
Just start with athletics and the para games. Jason Smith has won his heat in the men's 100 metres T13 at the World Para Athletics Championships in Dubai. Came home in a time of 10.84 seconds. He's bidding for a 5th World Para Athletics gold medal. That finals this afternoon. Jordan Lee will hope to add to Ireland's medals tally. He competes in the men's high jump at the T47. And Cork's Niamh McCarthy brought home the first medal of the games yesterday when she won bronze in the F41 discus yesterday. She'll be presented with her medal this afternoon. Further on, of course, that Mayo story. Further details have emerged from the Mayo GAA emergency meeting. The Mayo GAA International Supporters Foundation have been withholding €250,000, as you heard here this morning, raised at a gala function in New York. Of course, Mayo's County Board Executive, of course, summoned before the Connacht Council and Central Council. Of course, there's lots more in that story on offtheball.com as well. In football, Ireland manager Vera Pauw says she was disappointed her side conceded that late goal, of course, in the 3rd minute of added time, and that saw Ireland draw 1-1 away to Greece in Group I of their Euro 2021 qualifiers. It makes things very difficult. The men's team, of course, continue their preparation for the friendly with New Zealand on Thursday this afternoon, and the Republic of Ireland under-19s are away to Switzerland Ireland this morning in the first of the Euro 2020 qualifiers. Tom Mohan's men get that game underway at 10 a.m. Irish time. While England manager Gareth Southgate has defended his decision to axe Raheem Sterling for tomorrow's Euro 2020 qualifier against Montenegro, Sterling's jewellery is believed to have scratched the cheek of Joe Gomez after the Manchester City forward squared up to the Liverpool defender at England camp a day after the pair clashed at Anfield, and Southgate says the buck stops with him.
In the end, I always have to find the right solution for the group and for how we will work moving forward. And that's a very difficult line. You try to be fair at all times when I'm dealing with all of the players. I won't always get that right, but in the end, I'm the manager.
And speaking of managers, punctuality is important to Frank Lampard. Pictures have emerged of the fining system at Chelsea. They include £20,000 for being late for the start of training, €1,000 for a phone ringing during a team meal or meeting, and £500 for every minute that you're late to a team meeting. So pretty severe.
Stick it on silent. Stick the phone on silent.
You just imagine, it's just a kind of stupidity tax though, isn't it? It's not like, it's not real.
It is.
Even the 20,000 one for training, so you have to be there an hour before training anyway. So you can't, and the restaurant closes an hour before training, so yeah, it's just, I can't imagine it. They get too worked up.
Where does the money go to?
Oh, there's charitable foundations.
Okay. Frank Lampard.
Stayed on, in France.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Tom, good stuff. We're going to talk with Robbie Fowler in just a minute about his new book. If anybody has any questions for Robbie, you can use the hashtag OTB AM. It's 8:45 this morning. We don't know where that Frank Lampard stuff came out, or if he's leaked it to make himself look tough in the face of everything else that's going on in world football at the moment, do we?
No, the pictures emerged. I think it's sort of on Reddit. It popped up somewhere as well. So lots of leaks once you see in football at the moment.
Very good. Let's head to Australia and to join the Brisbane Roar coach Robbie Fowler, whose new book, A Footballer's Life, is out. Robbie, good morning to you. Good evening to you where you are. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Proud of yourself?
Yeah, good. Listen, now, before we talk to you about the book, a quick question about the news of the day. This Raheem Sterling, Joe Gomez row. As a coach now, would you deal with this differently than you would have done as a player?
Well, probably yes. I think it has happened. It's probably not ideal. From a manager's point of view, would he be done it if this was a World Cup semi-final? Probably not. But I don't think we should sit here and argue with Gareth. He felt that's probably the right decision. For the camp. But look, the players have apologised, or Raheem has apologised. I felt he should have kept it for the Colonel Gareth, dealt with it that way. Players have apologised, and as far as I'm concerned, it should be finished. Let's not make a bigger thing out of it.
It seems as though one of the reasons, Robbie, that maybe Gareth Southgate did make a big thing of it is possibly his own personal experience, and certainly what we've heard of England over the last 20 years, that there were these big divisions between the various club factions, that the Liverpool players would sit at one table, the Chelsea players at another table, the Manchester United players at another table. Was that your experience of it when you look back throughout your career?
Well, look, of course, we sat on a table with our mates. It's like if you go to a radio station dinner, you're not going to sit on a table with fellas from other radio stations. You're going to sit with the players or the people you're comfortable with. So look, with international football, of course, you play, or you're training and you're playing with your rivals. But look, you've got to be sensible enough to know that. Look, we're all here to do the same job. I've fell out with managers. But ultimately, you're growing up, and you've got to put whatever is aside, and then you just get on with it. I never really wasn't comfortable playing for England because I never really played, and I never really felt part of it. But I never once turned up thinking, I can't stand these Man United players. I can't stand these Chelsea players. I knew them. They're not unbelievably big, massive mates, but I appreciated the good football they played. I appreciated them as persons, but I never once sort of went up to the camp thinking, well, I'm not going to sit by him because I don't like him. There would be times when you would sit with different people, but ultimately, whenever you went for breakfast, dinner, you're going to sit with your own mates, the players that you're more comfortable with.
Robbie, you've spoken brilliantly before about being from Liverpool and what it means to be from the city and what it means to have grown up in the part of the city that you grew up in. Was that one of the reasons why you don't have that many regrets about your England career in some respects, that ultimately what was important to you was playing for your boyhood team and being the best player you could be at Liverpool?
Yeah, look, I think you totally nailed that. Look, if I'm being totally honest, if I'd played more games for England, I might have had a different feeling. But I just never felt part of an England setup because I never really played. Now, look, times might have been, times might have changed if I was playing, if I was a regular, I don't know. But ultimately, because I wasn't a regular, I wanted to get back to Liverpool as soon as possible and play with them because I was comfortable there and, I knew I was playing. But, I'm the type of person, when I'm not playing football, I'm not going to sit there and be just this really big happy chap around the camp. Because, I was a passionate player. I wanted to play all the time. Whether it was with Liverpool, when I went away with England, of course I wanted to play. But when you know you're not playing, then, for me, as a person, I don't really enjoy that environment when I'm not playing.
Quite often when you read these autobiographies, Robbie, one of the things you look out for is, like, what made you so good? Like, that sort of natural talent, where did it actually come from? And reading your book, it seems pretty obvious that your dad was an unbelievably key influence in that. Firstly, he had a really good understanding of the game, and like down to you being two-footed, insisting that.
I think you're being too kind. So when you pick up a book, you don't really read it to see how you're learning to dive a ball.
Look for the scandal.
Pick it up to see who's nailing who's criticising who, what plays you don't like, and all that. Well, unfortunately, I'm not like that. I'm quite an easygoing lad, so I will get on with everyone. I will mix with everyone. And I'll speak to everyone. But in terms of my development as a footballer, I grew up in, obviously one of the rougher places in Liverpool. But it was a great place for me because there was a load of families who had a load of kids in, the masonette where we lived. So we were always playing football. And when I wasn't playing football with them, I would be practicing with my dad. So when you always talk about, practice, makes perfect, it doesn't necessarily make perfect. Good practice or perfect practice makes perfect. So, it's me, wanting to do it all the time. My dad helping me want to do it. My dad wouldn't force me, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I want to do it, but my dad would take me on the local field and learn me how to kick with, obviously, my right foot. Because when I was, a real young kid, my right foot was terrible. I struggled to stand up on it. It was that bad, But obviously, the practice you get from, obviously with your mates, with your dad, was probably what I wanted to do myself as well.
What age are you when Kenny Dalglish picks you up at the bus stop as you're leaving training and you sort of realise... What age
was I?
Yeah.
I was probably about 14 actually, and you can imagine a young kid at the bus stop getting a lift off the Kings. Probably one of the greatest ever Liverpool players. Not probably, is the greatest ever Liverpool player. So for him to take the time out and take one of these skinny little kids with his way out, bus stop home from a wet winter's night, and take me by where I lived. I mean, it's just incredible. And I speak volumes of Kenny as a man, Liverpool as a club. The fact is that you've got this unbelievable player. You've had this unbelievable career as a player, as a manager. He's going well out of his way, to take, to snotty nose little kid home. And I always liked Kenny anyway. But from that moment, I think you sort of go up in your estimation because. Sitting in the back of Kenny's car, getting a lift, and it's probably what every young kid would dream of. Any young kid who, and look, I don't even care if you're a Liverpool fan. If you're getting a lift off Kenny and he's taking the time out to do that, I think most kids would jump at that chance.
Robbie, why do you think your Liverpool team didn't fulfil the potential that the playing team should have done?
I mean, quite simply, there was another team who were probably better than us. It wasn't through the water trying. We were a very good team at Liverpool. Probably should have achieved more than what we did. But look, I don't know. Maybe certain players, certain performances against teams that we should be beating. That was sort of what sort of curtailed our professionalism in terms of getting the right results in performances. There was no doubt that whenever we sort of played, and we played against the big teams, either the Manchester United, the Chelsea, the Arsenal, we were as good, if not better. But the sticking point with us is we probably struggled to beat the so-called weaker teams, whereas Manchester United were maybe a little bit more professional in getting that job done. And look, obviously we were a good team, but I'm not going to just admit that the other team were slightly better.
Over the period of time as well, they had Alex Ferguson. I think that might, like, if Ferguson had joined Liverpool instead of joining Man United, things would have been different. His willpower and him being the disciplinarian at the club obviously helped to change how Manchester United was run, and maybe it was the absence of a Ferguson type character for your squad.
Yeah, but look, in hindsight, it's brilliant. I think everyone can say, oh, this player, that player, you could have done this, you could have done that. The fact of the matter is we did have experienced players in our team. I think, let's not pretend that we never. We had the likes of Ian Rush, John Barnes, and Steve Nicol. He was all coming towards the end of the career, but they were all still good players. But I think we probably lost out because they were probably coming towards the end of their career where football was maybe slightly changing in terms of the way you looked at yourselves, and certainly from my point of view, I'm looking at these players and I'm looking, these have won everything, these Liverpool players now, so I'm going to do what they've done. So looking in hindsight, it's brilliant, yeah, and I get that. But the way we did it, we just thought, well, look, this has worked before, so why can't it work again?
The omerta continues, Ger, within this book about the Spice Boys. Do you all sit down? Did you sit down like 5-6 years ago yourself and McManaman and McAteer and come up with the same 4 or 5 stories that you were allowed to release to the public, but nothing else? Because you said everyone reads these books for the scandal, and it's the same scandal in every book.
We get together every other week and we wear our white suits and all. Well, you can imagine, look, we're all good, mate. And look, there's lots of stories that you can't put in books, and because, you'd just be an absolute idiot if you were going to print everything. But look, there's lots of stories in everyone's book, and you've got to be careful what you say. But I think in terms of us as a group, and a group of young lads, we actually socialise quite a lot, but we socialise at the right time. All this professionalism. You've went out their own time. We never, when there was games, we never went out. But I think you've got to remember, we were young lads who obviously were going to go out. But, the fact is that we didn't win what we should have done. That's maybe a little bit of a stickler in terms of everyone thinking, oh, you're doing this or you're doing that. Look, I know, because, the Manchester United players went out. They would go out and have a drink as well. But because they were winning stuff, it's different. They don't really get the same sticks throughout them because we never won nothing. But look, we know that they went out because we've been out and we've convinced them.
We had Michael Owen in studio a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the fact he never got to go back to Liverpool and how he had it written into his contract at every club that if Liverpool came in with a certain bid, he could go back, and you could definitely sense the regret that he never had that opportunity, and that his legendary status as the club is definitely diminished because of the fact that he went to Manchester United and he never went back. You got that opportunity to go back again, and I remember my first ever trip to Anfield was actually the night you scored against Fulham on your comeback performance, and it's hard to describe now, the genuine warmth that was there from Liverpool supporters and delight that you were back, even if maybe you were just getting past your peak, that to have their own boyhood hero back playing in front of them. What was that period like for you? Because I presume you thought you were never going back.
Incredible. I think that was better than my first spell at Liverpool. I know you're saying I was past my peak. But look, my goal for games in my second spell at Liverpool was actually not too bad. Even before I scored my first goal against Fulham, I'd actually scored 3 goals that were disallowed. One was for offside, and 3 of them were for offside, but 2 of them weren't offside, so they should have counted. So the goals for games was very good. But me going back to Liverpool was, for me, it was waking up at Christmas and finding out you got the best present that you've ever wanted there. a Liverpool lad. Didn't really want to leave, if I'm being totally honest, but knew I had to leave just for my own sanity. You know, I would never ever disrespect the Leeds. I would never ever disrespect Man City, obviously going to them other clubs. But I'm a Liverpool lad. You know, I still enjoyed my time at Leeds. I thought Leeds was a great club. It really was a great club. I eventually got to like Man City. Being honest, I wasn't, you know, I didn't do myself any favours when I first went there. I didn't really enjoy it, probably because I didn't really want to leave Leeds. And I know you probably get a lot of Man City fans who think, well, you know, we didn't really want you anyway. But look, you know, I would never ever disrespect them. You know, I enjoyed that. But look, for me to go back to Liverpool and play where I've always wanted to, and if I'm being honest, if I got the call now, you know, to go and play for Liverpool, I'd be back in the gym first thing in the morning. You know, I love Liverpool as a club. You know, I love Liverpool as a place. You know, and the time there was just exceptional. You know, obviously before I left, and when I went back, it was just the best thing ever.
Robbie, you're in Australia at the moment. Is the plan to stay in Australia? Is the lifestyle so great there that that's where you want to make your career as a manager, or do you want to eventually work your way back to football in Europe and presumably England?
Yeah, look again. You know, I've got a 2-year contract, and you know, I'm only 4 games into my first season. We've drew 2. We've lost 2. We've lost. Well, we drew against a team who won the league last year. You know, we drew against the league leaders. And we lost the 2 games. And, you know, I know every manager says this, but they were games that we should have won. We were by far the better team. But you know what? I'm really enjoying it. You know, I'm enjoying being part of a football club again. And look, do I want to come home? Eventually I will come home. You know, there's no doubt about that. But look, you know, I'm enjoying the time. Really, really am so far. It's like when you're a player, you know, results dictate everything. You know, again, you know, when you're getting the right results, you know, you enjoy it even more. But you know, the time now is totally different from when I was as a player. You know, you obviously you live and breathe football as a player. Don't get me wrong, but now it's a little bit more intense and a little bit more scrutiny in terms of looking after everything, as opposed to just yourself when you're a player. But you know what? I'm loving it. I really am. You know, I feel as though, you know, I have got a lot to give. You know, I've gone down the route of having every single badge that you can have in terms of coaching, the pro licence included. And obviously me doing that shows people that, you know, I'm incredibly serious. The fact is that I've come over the other side of the world to get on the managerial ladder. For me, that is you know, takes some doing, and it shows people that, you know, I have got the you know, the will and the dedication to, you know, to succeed and that drive to do better.
Well, listen, congratulations on the publication of the book. Thanks a million for making the time to talk to us, Robbie. You're always welcome here anytime.
Cheers, chaps. Thanks very much.
It's Robbie Fowler giving us some thoughts all the way from Australia this morning, talking about his new book. Michael Owen did take the I'm dishing the I'm going to dish the gossip.
Well, see, I think though the reason their books are very different is that they were portrayed very differently. So Robbie Fowler, I imagine, feels an awful lot is out there, whereas Michael Owen would admit, I think, the reason he wrote the book is that everyone thought he was a bit dull. And he was like, no, I wasn't dull. Actually, I was just sort of at 17 told, oh, you know, you can be really dull and you'll make way more money by being really dull. And he thought, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then at 35, I kind of thought, oh, everyone thinks I'm really dull. That's not very interesting.
No, it's not, especially not when you want to make your career as a pundit.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, he's going to try and become a manager, which is, I wasn't sure that a lot of these guys were going to end up going that direction because, frankly, being a manager sounds like a lot of difficult work, time, effort, stress.
It's the one part of football I can never fully understand. Like, what's in it for Frank Lampard? You've made all the money you'll ever need. Like, it's not an easy job. Like, the punditry thing, totally. All right, there's a bit of work involved, but if you're at that level, you're going to all the best games and you've got your few days off for a bit of golf. But Frank Lampard is probably in there at 6:30 every morning till 8 o'clock every night. For what?
Do you remember the key thing in Frank Lampard's entire story is he's born rich, right? His dad was a footballer, so he's already rich. So his dad comes from the hard part of London and makes it, and then drives his son relentlessly to the point where his son is crying at training again and again and again and again and again. That work ethic is metaphorically beaten into him. And he's still got that work ethic. So what's he going to do? I remember in New York on holidays one September, sweating, walking down the street. Frank Lampard's there with his 2 kids who are as badly behaved as our kids. He's doing exactly the same stuff. We were, come on, lifting them up, and he's sweating. And you're like, this isn't really what Frank Lampard wants to do with his life. He wants to be in there giving it to his strikers, saying, what are you doing? Why aren't you tracking back?
Here's how I used to do it.
Yeah.
So too much time with your kids was the key thing.
Well, I think maybe, you know.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
I think the work ethic is the thing, was what I was saying. It was like I can't see him just doing nothing now. Because he's got so much football knowledge and information. And I'd say Roy Keane is bored. I'd say Roy Keane wants to be in with a club doing stuff.
Oh, he says he's not bored. He says he's, keeps himself busy.
I know, what? Doing what, though?
Go visit people.
Doing what?
Like,
who?
If there's many questions from that night that remain unanswered and that should have been asked. But he says, I go visit people. Who does he visit?
Yeah.
Whose door does he knock on and go,
Maybe his kids. Like, in fairness, his kids are kind of grown up now. So
get to spend some time with them.
Robbie Fowler, My Life in Football, Goals, Glory and the Lessons I've Learned is available in all good bookshops and some rubbish ones too. It's just a line we've stolen. Can you do that these days? Are you allowed to do that?
Who'd you steal that from?
Culturally appropriate? Can't even remember.
Crap.
Yeah. Soccer AM.
Oh, God. Wow.
All right. The Ireland under-21s have a crucial qualifier against Armenia tomorrow lunchtime. Earlier this morning, Nathan caught up with Irish midfielder Jason Knight.
All right, so another big game for the Republic of Ireland under-21s, taking on Armenia at midday. It has been a, by and large, successful campaign so far for Stephen Kenny's side. Setback against Iceland last time out, and it looks as though it's going to be a much changed side this time round with a lot of withdrawals, a lot of them for a positive reason, with the likes of Aaron Connolly and Troy Parrott being called up to the senior squad. May mean an opportunity for Jason Knight of Derby County, and I'm delighted that he has joined us on the line now. Afternoon, Jason.
Hiya, how are you?
You're in Yerevan at the moment. I understand it was quite a trip to get there.
Yeah, it was a good trip. We had 2 flights, but it was good. Didn't take too long, and we got settled in really well so far.
I mentioned there it's been a good campaign so far, and there's a definite buzz around the under-21s that hasn't been there for a long time. And look, the 21s, I guess, have a dual role. One is qualification, which the Republic of Ireland have never managed before. The other is to help players progress and bring through that next generation. How much and how does that work out for you as a group, and how much have you spoken about that with Stephen Kenny, that results are important, but maybe they're not quite everything?
Yeah, I think it's been a great campaign so far, and you can see that by the crowds we're getting in Tala and the following we're getting away from home. I think we've put in some really good performances, and like you say, we're talking to the gaffer and all the staff. It's about performing and getting the results, but ultimately progressing into the first team if you're ready.
I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with players who played at 21 level before, and whether they felt there was a big gap, and whether they were almost just left to one side as 21 players in comparison to the senior team, and whether that feels different. Like, do you feel because Stephen Kenny is going in 9 months' time as senior team manager that there's a real relevance to what you're doing at 21 level?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can easily see a pathway through to the first team now, and you've seen in Aaron Connolly and Troy that if you keep performing, you'll get your chance, and that's what you're seeing now, the fruits of it.
And Leo Connor's involved with the senior squad now as well for this friendly against New Zealand. How does that manifest itself in the squad then, when you get together, when you see 3 guys who've been around for the last few months, who you're playing with at training, who some of them haven't, like yourself, made appearances at senior club level yet, are getting a chance at the senior team? You must feel you're not actually that far away.
No, everyone feels that they're only a step away from the first team, and that if you keep performing well and keep training well, that hopefully one day you'll get your chance. And that's all credit to the boys who've gone up. They've took it.
Keith Andrews is one of the coaches involved with Stephen Kenny, obviously brilliant Premier League centre midfielder during his time, won a lot of caps with the Republic of Ireland. Have you spent much time working with Keith?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work with Keith, not only with the 21s. I had him in younger ages as well, and he's been great with me, teaching me just little things, not only on the pitch but off the pitch, how to hold yourself and stuff like that. So it's been really good working with Keith.
Yeah, what sort of stuff do you feel still? Because it's the one thing you got to remember, though, we're watching 21s. There's a lot of players who have several years at 21s potentially ahead of them. You're still only 18. What sort of things, particularly having gone to England and working with the likes of Keith Andrews, what sort of things are they looking at in your game that they're trying to improve?
Just little bits at a time. I think it's just the tempo of the game and the speed of the game that it's played at international level is different than playing at club level. So it's just about adapting quickly and adapting to new situations. Like we're in Armenia now, and it would be different if we were in another country. So just little things like that is really good with all of us players with.
Again, you'd be going looking to beat Armenia, but it's another real opportunity to learn, because at senior team level you will have these Eastern European trips, and it was the one thing maybe in that Iceland game that there was a sense that you struggled with the conditions. It was such a bizarre game. There was nobody at it. It was incredibly windy. It just seemed like almost like the senior team's game over in Gibraltar, and being able to learn something, being able to take something from that, how important is that?
Yeah, definitely. That's what the gaffer stressed after the game, that we learned from this quickly, because we had another camp coming up soon after, a month later, and that's what it was. Just not too many negatives, but a lot of positives from that game that we can take into this camp and hopefully get the results.
Your own personal situation, you're playing with Derby County. You've started games in the Championship this season. You've been in and around the first team squad. I know you've just dropped out of the team at the moment. You must be just loving life over there.
Yeah, I'm really loving it. I've been around the first team since the start of the season now, and I've played a few games, and hopefully I'll get some more minutes when I get back.
How difficult have you found it making that breakthrough? Because you get the taste for first team action, but you got to remind yourself you are only 18, and there's very few 18-year-olds playing championship football. It's such a tough league that to be patient, is that something that comes quite naturally to you, that you go, all right, this is going to be a long career? Are you at the manager's door saying, let me on, I want to play more?
No, it is difficult, like you say, but when you get that chance and you come out, it is difficult, but that's what happens to the younger players. You have to just be patient and keep working hard in training, and hopefully when your chance comes again, that you take it. That's all you can do, really.
There's a good chance that you will get a chance for this Irish side. There's obviously suspensions, and quite a few players have pulled out of the squad. And Stephen Kenny's done quite a bit of rotation anyways. And one of the things that seems to have stood out is that it's not necessarily about the players who start, that no matter who comes in over these opening 3-4 games for the 21s, that Stephen Kenny's done so much work with you on the training ground. Whoever steps in seems to sort of know their role and knows that they're going to get the opportunity to express themselves. Is that something that you would feel that actually very quickly all the players in that 21 squad have got on a pretty similar wavelength?
Yeah, definitely. Ever since the first camp, it's been very much a squad aim to get out of this group and get qualified for the European Championships. And I think everyone in the squad buys into that it's very much not a starting 11 sort of game. It's the whole 22 players that have travelled.
It must be a great squad to play in as a central midfielder, because there definitely seems to be a real encouragement for you to get on the ball and try and influence the game.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to play good attacking football, and I think you can see that from the games we played so far. That's what we're trying to implement in the games, and that if we keep doing that more often than that, we'll get the results and hopefully get the performances in.
Jason, great stuff. The line isn't great over in Yerevan, unsurprisingly, but very best of luck with the match. Thanks for taking the call.
Okay, thank you.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
They spoke about your arm not being down beside your side. I mean, this is not Irish dancing.
OTB Sports Radio.
Basketball would have been my main game.
The brand new sports radio station from Off the Ball.
That's my point. Don't play for us if you're a proud Englishman.
Now broadcasting 24 hours a day. Live on the Go Loud app, Alexa.
You have a whole new world of possibilities.
Google Home, tune in, and offtheball.com/radio.
This is OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM.
I think you need a certain personality style. Like, do you think, I think a lot about extroverts and introverts, and, where people, we've got a lot of lads at Leinster who would be pretty quiet, really. Pretty quiet, quite reserved, more on the introverted scale than the extrovert. And I say to them, listen, obviously, you are who you are, but in order for you to be successful with this rugby team, we need you to take this step to be a little bit more outgoing, to communicate a bit more, to ask questions in meetings, to talk on the field, to make decisions. Do you think it's possible to to be on the quieter side and still be successful in that type of work?
Yeah, I mean that's about teams. Diversity is key. All types of diversity. So you need introverts and extroverts, and you need different types of personalities. And I always say that in Vodafone, my team needs to reflect our customer base. So every type of diversities. So I think, look, people have their strengths and their development needs. So if you have introverts and they want to become leaders, they probably have to work a little harder on, getting their voice heard. So tips like, you need to, at those meetings, I'd like your opinions, because they probably have very good opinions and they want to get them out. So I often say to someone like, try and get it out earlier in the meeting. Say, because you don't want them for the hour of the meeting going, when am I going to say this? And they're stressed out of their head. So yes, that's coaching people. And yeah, I am an extrovert, definitely, and I know that. And I like being with people, and I live off being with people. But like everyone, I lead my quiet time. And again, introverts, you want to encourage them to make sure their opinions get out, that they do speak up, that their voice is important, but they have to work a bit harder. But definitely, I still think introverts, can be leaders. And I have worked for introverts, actually. But I think it's identifying those things early on and then working on them.
Yeah, that is Anne O'Leary of Vodafone on Season 2 of Leaders' Questions with Stuart Lancaster. That is on at 1 o'clock every Tuesday across Off the Ball, OTB Sports Radio, and on our social channels as well. You can also catch the podcast back on offtheball.com or wherever you get your podcast. Download the Go Loud app. Certainly well worth checking out. Now, Sean Ingle, chief sports reporter at The Guardian, is on the line because yesterday was a pretty remarkable day at the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service. Shane Sutton was in the dock, and the former head coach of British Cycling and Team Sky stormed out of the tribunal, having denied he was a serial liar, a bully and a doper. Earlier, Sutton had accused his former colleague, Dr. Richard Freeman, who is the defendant in a fit-to-practice case, of being spineless and a drunk who others in British cycling wanted dismissed. Morning, Sean.
Good morning.
I'm not sure what you were expecting heading into this yesterday, but this all seems a little bit insane.
I think with Shane Sutton, there's always that sense that there's a bomb that could go off at any time, and he certainly lobbed a few and had a few lobbed back at him yesterday. It really was extraordinary.
Yeah, can you talk us through how the day went then?
Sure. So we after more legal argument, just before lunch, Dr. Freeman's QC Mary O'Rourke, basically said that, what she was going to say to Shane. And I think that was probably a deliberate tactic on her part, because at that point we weren't sure whether Shane was going to come in or not. So the fact that if he hadn't showed up, she at least would have got that in front of the tribunal, what she was going to allege. And then at 2 o'clock he comes in immediately. There's antagonism between the two of them. She's trying to establish that he was an expert at cycling. He, cycling Commonwealth Games in '78 and won a medal. He'd been part of all these successful teams, and he was trying to sort of downplay it. She kept putting to him that he knew everything, that he was across cycling, he crossed, the ins and outs of the sport, and he was saying, not really, all I'm interested in is the technical stuff. And then we got onto sort of the nitty-gritty, where she started basically lobbing some grenades at him, starting with the fact that that when earlier in his career, when sort of 20 odd years ago, that an unnamed person had seen testosterone vials in his fridge, and also had seen him inject them. And Shane's response, was that he'd been tested over 100 times in his career and never tested positive. He also named who he thought O'Rourke's, informer was, and she said, no, you've got the wrong person. So that was just the start of what was to come.
This isn't a court case, it's a fit-to-practice case against Dr. Richard Freeman. And those type of accusations that were being made about Shane Sutton, were they expected to come? Was there a feeling that this was going to be a sort of no-holds-barred afternoon where you can basically throw whatever you want at Shane Sutton?
Absolutely. I mean, she's got absolute privilege, so she can essentially say what she wants as long as there's something to back it up. And she had a bunch of witness statements. She said that she was going to put to Sutton over the course of 2 days of testimony. Of course, in the end, we only got 2 hours. But you're right. Shane was supposed to be the sort of star witness, really, for the General Medical Council. He's bringing a case against Dr. Freeman. He's already accepted 18 of the 22 charges against him, including ordering Testigel to be sent to the velodrome, where both British Cycling and Team Sky were based in 2011. The crucial point here, though, is who was the Testigel for? The GMC say it was to basically microdose an unnamed rider. Dr. Freeman says, no, I was bullied by Shane to order it because he had erectile dysfunction. So these exchanges were basically to test whether Shane was a reliable witness or not. But at one point, Shane turned to her and said, can I ask, am I the one who's on trial here? I feel like I'm the criminal. I mean, that sort of gives you a flavour of what was going on. He also accused Mary O'Rourke, Freeman's QC, of being a bully. He said, I'm going to get you for defamation, even though he couldn't. It was wild.
Yeah, and even the fact as well that O'Rourke pointed out to Sutton that he had sent Freeman some pretty hostile texts in the last few weeks suggests that Sutton probably knew what was coming and is a little bit rattled by all this.
Yeah, I mean, he did say afterwards that he went in trying to be focused and then got all emotional. That text you refer to, he sent one to Freeman saying, be careful what you say, I can drag you in. You won't be the only person I can hurt, which is pretty incendiary. And you've got to remember in all this, whatever you think of Dr. Freeman and the fact he didn't keep his medical records and etc. and so on, he is regarded as a vulnerable witness because he's had severe stress problems. He's which we're allowed to talk about and now it was very incendiary thing to do. And Shane really flitted from one kind of mood to another. So, for example, he'd say on one hand, he's a good bloke, a good friend. I have no argument with him or anyone else. There's no one better at the bedside. I'm happy with what I achieved in my career. I wish Richard all the best. Then a split second later, he said, the person behind the screen, regarding Freeman, is a liar. He went through a messy divorce. He was like the Scarlet Pimpernel. I covered his backside when he was there. There were 2 critical cases of athletes who were ill, and I couldn't get hold of him. Someone from British Cycling, wanted him out. And then he said, Richard, you're a spineless individual. I mean, it was extraordinary.
Richard Freeman was behind the screen for yesterday's evidence while Shane Sutton was in, and Shane Sutton referenced that, said the person lying is the man behind the screen. Hopefully one day he'll come and explain why. And I think there was an encouragement for Richard Freeman to come out and basically show his face. Did Richard Freeman show his face at any stage?
No, he didn't. He was here. We couldn't see either his lawyer or Freeman yesterday.
All of this obviously goes back to 2011 then, and that order of the Testigel, and I guess whether or not it was for an athlete, which is denied, or whether it was for Shane Sutton and his treatment for erectile dysfunction, which he denies. And we were half joking earlier, Shane Sutton was saying, I'll bring my wife in here to prove it. Are we at that level? Has it got that deep down and dirty that is what's going to happen?
It has. I mean, I think essentially, yes. I mean, he also sweared on his 3-year-old daughter's life, said he'd take a lie detector test. He said that his 12-year-old boy had been hearing all the things that O'Rourke had been saying about him through the press, and he called O'Rourke a bully. She was, she took her gloves off as well, and basically was trying to, I think she was just getting to the point where she was trying to really forensically drill down into what he knew. And before he walked out, there was a quite a long discussion about a statement that Sutton had given to the General Medical Council, 2 statements, about whether he'd read Freeman's book or not, and what he knew about Testigel. And he denied sort of reading the book, denied knowing what Testigel was. But she said in one of the statements that he appeared to think there was more than one delivery of Testigel to the velodrome. And she asked him why he thought that. And at that point, he kind of didn't answer, and then he sort of began this speech that led to him walking out.
And is Shane Sutton appearing in front of the council of his own volition? Did he volunteer for this? Can they insist that he returns, or can he just say, actually, he's gone back to Spain today, I'm never returning, that's the end of it?
Well, he said he was going to stay all week. He's got a family matter to attend to at some point this week. The tribunal's not sitting today. It's due to sit tomorrow. We will hear at lunchtime whether Shane will come back tomorrow. He's scheduled to and give a whole day. When we asked him afterwards, he said he'd speak to his family and make his mind up last night. So we'll find out. It's interesting what happens next. If Shane doesn't come back, O'Rourke can then ask the tribunal to either take some of the evidence, have it stricken off completely in their judgment, or maybe downplay it and give it less weight.
Remind us, and from the purely cycling point of view, of how important Shane Sutton and Dr. Richard Freeman were to the success of British cycling and to Team Sky over the last decade.
Well, I mean, it's even more than that. I think Shane joined British Cycling as a sort of consultant and worked his way up in 2002, and he left in 2016. So really, you go back to the late 90s and British Cycling. Chris Boardman is riding and finishing well in the prologue and then disappearing. There's the odd medal, but no more. And then suddenly, what's hailed as the medal factory comes in from really 2008 onwards, where Britain win all these medals on the track. Team Sky started in sort of 2010. And after a bumpy couple of years, Bradley Wiggins is winning the Tour de France in 2012, and then obviously Chris Froome. So, and Shane is right at the heart of all this. Dr. Freeman was there from 2009 before leaving in 2017. So again, he is a key figure as well. So yeah, both are absolutely important. So what I think this does, you remember the reputation that British Cycling and Team Sky sold. That they left no stone unturned. They used marginal gains. They were just better than everyone else because they were more forensic. They were more thorough. They were just better. And what we have here is we have a doctor that doesn't keep medical records. We have a doctor that's accused of being drunk, not turning up when needed for serious cases with riders. We've got a guy, Shane Sutton, who says he's only ever read one book in his life, and wasn't aware of Lance Armstrong's ins and outs, wasn't aware of Floyd Landis's ins and outs. So there's definitely a contradiction there, and it certainly tarnishes that reputation. And those that swallowed wholesale the marginal gains stuff must be looking over her shoulder and thinking, well, did I get this right?
And also possibly those most serious allegations that O'Rourke made yesterday about the testosterone in his house and the accusations that she is a witness who watched Sutton inject the testosterone. This, again, having him worked within Team Sky and British Cycling, who had very much put out there that they were nowhere near any doping, wouldn't employ people involved in doping.
Absolutely. I mean, O'Rourke said that the individual in question wishes to remain anonymous for now, but had given his name and details to UK Sport and UK Anti-Doping, as well as to Damien Collins at the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. So he is willing, at least for his testimony, to be corroborated, to be checked, to be analysed by UK Anti-Doping, and you would hope they would have done that if they haven't already, or do that if they haven't already. It's serious stuff, and it's not just this, of course. It's that infamous Jiffy bag that was sent to Bradley Wiggins in 2011. So it's more than just this, definitely. Yeah,
and there have obviously been a huge amount of questions around Team Sky and British Cycling in recent years, and at times with any scandal you wonder whether you're ever going to get answers, or whether everybody comes together and nothing ever leaks out. What we saw yesterday must worry a huge amount of people within British Cycling, because this looks as though the fallout is going to be far more bitter than anybody could have ever expected.
I would agree with that, although on the other hand, there's nothing yet, I think, apart from the messiness. There's nothing that absolutely says this was going on or this was going on. Sure, the GMC are alleging that it was from an unnamed rider, but that hasn't stuck yet. Sure, Sutton faced some hostile questions, but O'Rourke's supposedly still has another day to go, and you would hope that some of the accusations she made against him, she would be looking to tease out if she gets the chance.
Sean, thanks a lot for taking the call.
Thank you.
Sean Ingle there, Chief Sports Reporter at The Guardian. Now, sky running is the extreme sport of running long distances at incredible heights. Pro sky runner Hilary Allen was on the show last night. She spoke about her experience of falling 150 feet and almost losing her life.
I remember everything leading up to the fall. I was on the ridge. I remember seeing my friends. I remember just feeling strong. I think I was moving into third place at this point. I remember even scenes from the ridge. But then what actually but then it was just like a split second and I was airborne. Like the horizon was like upside down. Like that's what the most vivid memory that I have. I was like, huh, like, okay, that's not supposed to be there. And then from there, it was just kind of like this realization, like life just slowed down and I was free falling. And I knew I knew it was happening. Like literally it was an outer body experience of my basically my mind telling myself, like, I was like myself watching me as I fell, like, you're dying, you're falling, like, try to stop yourself. Like, I remember the impacts. I don't remember the pain of them, but I remember like hitting the side of the mountain and then like that happening kind of on repeat as I was airborne and the horizon was spinning. But to my best recollection, like it just happened in an instant.
Yeah, incredible stuff from Hilary Allen. You can check out the podcast on offtheball.com. Now, Phil, are you going to join me in studio?
All good, yeah. How are you doing, yeah?
Are you all right? Because I hear word on the street is Phil was fuming. It's a new slot, Fuming Phil. We'll have a little thing with steam rising from your head.
Well, it kind of gets like that anyway in the winter.
Oh, does it?
You know, if you
when you get out of a car, it's like
if you do any exercise outside, the steam, especially off the top of my head. But
what would happen if you let your hair grow?
I don't know.
Would you have a comb over, or what would be going on?
No.
How much would there be?
There'd be more in certain places.
I think you should try it out.
No.
A sort of Movember style experiment. Grow your hair for 1 month and see what happens.
I actually went out and bought a new razor there at the weekend, so I'm definitely not going to do it. But
so the reason you were fuming, you were discussing yourself, Ger and Johnny, yesterday about Irish football.
Yeah, we're just talking about how people will turn around after, or if we were to lose to Denmark and not beat them on Monday and say, well, what do you expect? We don't really have the players. And I was just making the point that I think we have players that are more suited to international football than some of the players that are currently playing for Ireland. And people got back to me, and some of the points I made, obviously they didn't listen to, because I said, like,
it's not like the internet, Phil.
For someone like Jeff Hendrick, who was brilliant at Euro 2016, his form hasn't been great. Now, he's talked about how he hasn't really been played in the right position. He's been moved around. And I feel sorry for him, because under Martin O'Neill, he mightn't have been given that much direction. The difference with the Euros was they had a prolonged spell to train and work on things. But I mentioned Jack Byrne, and straight away people are like, Jack Byrne plays in the League of Ireland. He's not up to it. My point about Jack Byrne was he's not playing in the League of Ireland because that's his level. I think it's quite clear to watch him that he's better than most players in the League of Ireland. But he had a few issues when he was abroad in terms of not getting game time, maybe being at the wrong club. The best football he's actually played outside the League of Ireland was in Holland, a technical league where you get a bit more time in the ball and football is played, whereas if he's playing in the Championship or League One,
it's 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, and if he tries to turn on the ball, he's probably going to get absolutely clattered. But international football could suit him.
You see, I would disagree, because Jack Byrne plays his best football at a club that play football, at a club that get a lot of the football. Now, maybe when we have a totally transformative experience, as we're all hoping to have over the next 2 years, when Stephen Kenny comes in and we suddenly play football, Jack Byrne will be perfectly fine. But in this current Ireland team, he will not see enough of the ball to be able to influence the game.
No, and I made that point as well. This was more a kind of what I also included Enda Stevens and Matt Doherty as my wing backs, saying that they have to be the creators in the team. But we saw in the first half in Geneva, we played wing backs and it didn't work. Now this is very much, this is what I'd like to see, but I know this is what we're not going to see.
We've had a few comments in. Can you dig it 89? Phil Egan for Ireland manager. Simple. Red Roses 101. This is pretty precious stuff. Someone said it on another video. I don't really know what these lads want. Seems like they want a team of plucky losers. Well, we got smashed 3-0 playing loose but slightly more expensive football. Better than a 1-0 win? And Jaglon Andre. Mix record stands for itself. You all moan about long ball, low risk, unattractive. That got us to the top of the table. Did it?
Yeah, we're top, yeah.
Are we top right now?
Yeah, but
it doesn't really matter if we're not top at the very end.
Switzerland and Denmark still have to play Gibraltar.
Breaking news. Troy Parrott and Jack Byrne will start for Ireland against New Zealand tomorrow night. it's a terrible shame that we had a conversation an hour ago where I absolutely insisted that Jack Byrne probably would not start for.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what he's made of against.
Mick McCarthy's currently going through his press conference. I'll have that for you on offtheball.com very shortly. Media hype put pressure on him in regards to Connolly. He has changed things to accommodate him. And hey ho, our first defeat. There's nothing wrong with the way we're playing. You have been watching too much Barca, who I've always found a bore to watch. Yeah, they have moments of quality, but passing it at the back for 20 minutes is worse than long ball and high press.
All I was asking for is...
No, we can just disagree with Jay Glon and say you are not someone we want involved in the future of Irish football.
It's not a quick fix. I'm not saying, like, I understand where the comment's coming from in terms of the Switzerland game, but it's something that has to happen and has to be developed, and there could be a few tough days where you do lose a few goals because you're trying to play football, but eventually, a little bit kind of down the road, we don't give the ball away because we've more confidence in the way we want to play, and we can play players that are physical. We can also play technical players. We have a nice blend of it. I said I've no problem if we want to go direct at times. You were at Anfield on Sunday. There was many times Trent Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson put a ball down the channels to reset defensively and start their press again. I've no problem with that. I just want a plan. Even if you do go direct, Denmark do it. Denmark changed their game, basically went 4-3-3. Let's go direct, and Christian Eriksen will pick up the second ball and he'll be closer to goal and he'll score goals. And they did it against us a couple of years ago.
I've been focused all week on Monday night. I thought New Zealand, Thursday, let's get through it.
No,
now I'm ready.
I enjoy these games
Troy
more.
Parrott.
Yeah.
Jack Byrne running the show.
Yeah.
Let's get an extra 10,000 people there. Let's show these bloody all whites what we're all about.
Yeah.
These minnows of world football. Let's get them and let's batter them senseless, playing a style of football that they have never seen before. That's what I think might happen tomorrow night.
This is why I enjoy these friendlies, because we get to see players that we will never see in qualifiers because there's too much at risk. What
if Troy Parrott scores a hat-trick tomorrow night?
If Troy Parrott scores a hat-trick.
New Zealand haven't played a game in 18 months. Come on.
Yeah, well, they've obviously been concentrating on the Rugby World Cup, so now that's over. They're back to playing football.
I'm just saying it could happen.
No, if Troy Parrott would have to score a hat-trick to get in the conversation for a start.
To get into 23.
Yeah, that's it. Like I know you get your 20, you get the 23 nice and early.
Don't like to talk about it.
I always look for Nathan's tweets.
Sources.
Look for his tweet on match day. He'll let me know.
Monday morning, I'll let you know.
And it was Jack Byrne who was left out the last time.
It was. I feel bad doing it now because it turns out a couple of times I found out before the players have found out.
Yeah.
And I had a situation, was it last year, where I put up one of the players who was out and their mother DM'd me saying, where did you find this out? We're just on our way to the match. I was like, oh no.
You're playing the Jeff Shreves role there with Branislav Ivanovic. You're delivering the bad news.
Yeah, shocking. All right, Phil, great stuff as always.
Enjoy tomorrow.
We will. We will be at the Aviva Stadium for tomorrow night's Off the Ball. But that's it from us this morning on OTB AM. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to the Off the Ball channels on OTB Sports Radio throughout the day. If you missed anything from OTB AM, we were talking about the state of play with Mayo GAA, the sports pages. Robbie Fowler was on talking about his new book, and we had Sean Ingle on the dramatic Dr. Richard Freeman Tribunal. You can catch the podcast on offtheball.com/podcast, or check out the Go Loud app, or watch it back on the YouTube channel and subscribe. Tonight on Off the Ball, Wednesday night rugby football show with Kevin Gilban and much more as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB